welcome back to another DCU Daily. Hello, welcome to the show, all you new people who haven't been here before. I am John. I am temporary host. Dan is having some technical issues. That's why we were a little bit late. Apologies for that, but I'm John. So all the regulars, welcome back to the show. Love to see you. Again, packed show. We're cutting this at like 5 a.m. No sleep till Brooklyn. Let's go. Obviously, we're going to start with box office stuff, then going to head into a lot of Superman news before DCU Daily. We got a lot of pop culture stuff in terms of James Bond, Fantastic Four, Elio. Apparently, there are some leaks from Pixar employees on why that movie went as wrong as it did. Got some more like a trailer and a half. And then, of course, we got our quick hits, got our DC news, and all that and more. And we are gonna, have an awesome show for you guys. So let's bring in that wonderful Knuff intro, which is very applicable considering one of the trailers we're talking about today. So let's hit that up and get started with the news.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always number two.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding. You're kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see
right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
Hello, welcome back to the show after that very wonderful intro. So also I want to welcome into the show Jalen Enterprising. Hello, we didn't miss you. And Jalen already asking a question. John, if Superman makes a billion, would you shave your beard? Hell no. I'm not taking that chance. I would say if like M3GN 2.0 makes a billion, then I'd shave the beard. But that's never gonna fucking happen. So we're going to get started with the news. But speaking of M3GN, box office is what we usually start with. And apparently F1 is doing way better than what we thought it was going to be. Apparently it broke a little bit of the expectation, I believe, was 45 to 55 million, maybe 50 to 55 million. And it cracked 57. And you don't see a head movie. But yeah, Jerry Bruckheimer is like, yeah, what I do works. We shit on Jerry Bruckheimer a lot. I know he's was kind of like the Joel Silver of the 2000s, where he just cranked out like kind of the most, like, I wouldn't say bargain bin blockbusters, but you know what? They make money and they work, just like Joel Silver's movies. They made money and they worked. So I feel wonderful about this. It is gearing up to be an absolutely like blockbuster in a way. It's probably going to immediately go down with this upcoming weekend, considering, Jurassic World Rebirth is probably going to absolutely destroy it. But, it's nice that it's speeding off to a good direction. And considering Bruckheimer, I'm pretty sure like the last couple movies he did were fine with him. Pretty sure he also did Top Gun Maverick. Like, didn't Jerry Bruckheimer do that? So, Apple definitely in terms of their movies, Apple definitely needed a win. Yeah, some of their indie movies did okay, but this was like I feel like the first blockbuster from Apple that was like, that's gonna actually be in a good place. So I think I think this is absolutely wonderful in every sense of the word. As everyone knows, I did like very much so F1. I'm not gonna get into like, did we do a review? I forget if we did a review. It all blends together with how many reviews I do because I did one on Sunday. If you want to check on the Cool Kids movie reviews channel, we did a discussion on that. And yes, thank you, Dan Bruckheimer did do Top Gun Maverick. Um, WB seems to be heading in the right direction. They just need to like stop hating on animation. That would be great. Um, so it seems like F1 is in a really good place domestically because 57 million opening weekend for a non-franchise movie coming from Apple is definitely, I would say, a winner. But that is not only where the good news ends. Apparently, it did make 146.3 globally. And of course, How to Train Your Dragon is also just killing it once again with its third weekend. 28 years later is also a huge surprise considering it is a franchise that hasn't had a um, entry in the last 18 years, and it's rated R, and it somehow destroyed M3 So yeah, this is also going really good for all three of these movies is very wonderful. Meanwhile, it's kind of unfortunate, and we'll get into this um later with the film, but with Elio and that sort of thing. It is kind of a shame, but it's neither here nor there. But it's also a very it's I'm not gonna say like, oh yeah, woohoo, this is like gonna change everything. I'm just saying like it's nice to see a non-franchise movie do fairly well in terms of F1. And then something like a rated R zombie flick that hasn't had a movie in 18 years already made its budget back and is was very close to making double. So that's saying a lot, especially that it had kind of everything gets it. I guess it just goes to show how good that advertising was. I mean, look at that trailer. Look at that initial trailer. I have said many a times that that initial trailer was excellent. So good for 28 years later. Good for F1. Even good for How to Train Your Dragon. I still don't care enough to see the film. I nothing like I'm sure it's a fun, but maybe I'll wait till streaming to watch it. I'm not gonna pay like, a ton of money to go watch that. Um yeah, but this is nice to see. And meanwhile, M3 in is just, you know, fallen down. It's only made about 17 million. It's kind of made its budget back a little bit, depending because the budget said 15 to 25 million. So it either made it back or didn't quite yet, but it's going to. And it's going to be profitable. It's just not making nearly as money as people thought it was, but it's lovely to see. Lovely to see F1 killing it. I hope it does continue despite it like everything going against it because, you have three huge franchise movies coming out. You still have How to Train Your Dragon, which is still very big. Um, but yeah, and then Elio's kind of falling by the wayside, still not getting a ton of money, but maybe good word of mouth will get that to where it needs to be. Because God knows Liz loved it. But that's enough with the weekend box office. Time to get into a little bit of Superman news because I know that's what you want to see. Also, hello, Caleb. Very nice to see you on your dad's account once again. Um, but yeah, uh, like, yes, I have heard K-pop Demon Hunters is very good. A couple of friends of mine watched it, and they said it was a very, very good movie. Um, oh, and heard Ballerina seemed to have found her footing. Great. Pretty cheap, all things considered. Oh yeah, and Threegan is pretty cheap. But yeah, moving on to the next thing. We again, as I said, we have a little bit of Superman news before we get into some other noteworthy news stories. We got crypto. We got crypto up in here. Look at this good boy. Look at just show James Gunn showing off. I believe it's more test footage of crypto the way it seems like, taking Four's leg or maybe not 4, but at least a robot. But it shows that this is definitely test footage, how it interacts with other CGI. And considering this is test footage, it still looks really good. And this is by Framestore. So yeah, test footage is looking great, looking cute as ever. All right, Caleb, gotta just ruin everybody's fun. All right, cool. But speaking of dog lovers, Dan, do you want to enter? Do you want to start talking, or are you still waiting on certain things to be had?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I thought it was perfect timing as another dog owner and
Yeah.
crypto that we bring you in on the crypto side of things.
Yeah, I love this. Again, these are more just like you said, test shots, right? So
I
the
know,
frames.
Caleb, you're joking. Calm down.
I mean, Framestore, the company that did all the crypto stuff, and they did all the stuff for the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, so all the creatures
Yes.
that made us cry in the movie theater. I don't think anything's gonna, I don't think anything's gonna happen to crypto
No,
like what happened to
you
those.
fucking really think James Gunn would do that to us? Calm down now.
I know.
He's cruel, but not that cruel. I mean, he'll torture raccoons, but he won't torture dogs.
By the way, I did want to say quickly, because I know I kind of stepped in after the box office talk.
Sure.
I think it's really good that F1 has become the first movie from Apple that's well, look, here's the thing. It's got a long way to profitability because, like you said, John, it's got Jurassic World, Superman, Fantastic Four, all the biggest hits of the summer, potentially, all right in its path. But what I will say about it overall, F1 getting off to this kind of start, like 146.3 million worldwide, including 57 domestically. I mean, we knew worldwide it was going to do way better because F1 is so huge outside of North America, especially the US. But it is still amazing to see that this movie, bound to almost 150 million. This is one of the biggest openings of the year so far. And for Apple, this is great. And quite frankly, I don't think they care so much if this movie is profitable. I mentioned the other day, if this movie makes like 500 million or anywhere close to that, they'll be happy. It's not going to be profitable at that number because the reported budget for it was like 300 million, or like Apple says officially 250, 200, something like that. So,
but that also doesn't include like advertising.
Yeah, well, another 100 million at least you add on top. So yeah, they've spent close to $500 million just making it. Like, let's say 400 million, right? So they would need to make probably 600 to 700. It's kind of like similar to not Top Gun, similar to Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. The numbers that had in terms of budget. Plus, I think actually Mission Impossible was even more expensive because I think they spent like almost 400 million making it, and then all the money on marketing. So this has a slightly lower price tag in comparison to that. But I mean, even Mission Impossible with making over 500 million is good, but it's not going to be it's not going to break even theatrically, at least. Hopefully, we'll make that money back post theatrical, and that's the hope with F1. Because also for Apple, this will generate interest with Apple TV Plus. The only remaining streaming service that refuses to have an ad tier, right? I mean, they don't need it. Apple's got plenty of money, but hopefully this will lead to more work for Dams and Idris. I mean, obviously Brad Pitt, and Javier Bardem are already
Joseph
stars.
Kosinski. I mean, he's
Joseph
really
Kosinski's
killing it.
He's already talking about his next 3 or 4 movies, and I mean, he's got the UFO movie, which Jerry Bruckheimer already in the works.
He's got Miami Vice.
I mean, wait, isn't that UFO movie picked up by Apple too? I feel like
Apple and Bruckheimer. It's
Apple and
collaboration
it's the same exact team, like behind the scenes. And then the like you said, the Miami Vice movie, which is Warner Brothers, I think, right?
I think so. I think they own the rights. And then Top Gun 3, is like it's not like greenlit yet, but Joseph Kosinski said he's working on like almost like a pre-production where they're like kind of shooting ideas around with the writers and producers to see what
like Christopher McQuarrie, Tom Cruise,
and it also doesn't help that Tom Cruise is kind of with Warner Brothers right now, so there's a whole
true, but he's an executive producer on the show. It's not exclusive, so he can still do stuff with Paramount. But
but it just
I mean, I don't know if there will be an F1 sequel, but you have all of that, and then it's still Joseph Kosinski might have like 2 other projects. Wasn't he talking about a Days of Thunder sequel potentially?
Yeah,
like crossing over with, maybe cross that over with somehow with F1, where this version of Brad Pitt's character crosses over with the Days of Thunder version of the Tom Cruise character, because of course Brad Pitt in this movie has just won the Daytona 500, right? So it's like, yeah, I mean it would make sense, I suppose. But anywho, so yeah, good for Apple. Great for Apple, actually. And it's good that, like you said, 28 years later, making plenty of money. That franchise, in today's world, I feel like the whole model, the financial model behind the low budget or mid budget zombie movie just doesn't survive in today's market. And the fact that 28 years later is making the amount of money that it has, it's not a terribly huge number compared to F1 making more than that in just this first weekend. But for the amount of money they made that movie for, and for that franchise as a whole, it's really good. And then, of course, Megan 2.0, unfortunately, it's worse than people expected. And even I expected, because the trailer was fun. But anyway, I digress, John. Let's get back to Superman. I just wanted to kind of get my
no, it's good to know thoughts. But of course, cute doggo, great test footage, all that.
Love it. Good dog, bad dog.
I just perfect. Like,
by the way, can we quickly go back to the good dog, bad dog? Because the thing on the right is totally just like Rocket Raccoon, except in the DC world, right? He's like, how much for that leg? He's like, it's not for sale. Okay, I'm gonna get that leg, and then he just gets this is totally exactly that. Anyway. I'm like, Crypto and Rocket Raccoon would get along, I'm sure. They would have lots of fun.
Yeah, imagine looking like this and shitting on a movie. Wow, that's crazy. Anyway,
it's not the blooper, bro. It's test footage from a VFX house that James Gunn has shared. He's done this before for what it's worth. He did it for the Guardians movies too. So it's some people just anyway. I know.
Damn straight. Based Gandalf based.
All right. Well, let's keep. Yeah, like you said, let's get.
Just like
Lex Luthor stuff.
This perfect face, but it's just just silly stuff. We just I'm sure out of all the cast, Nicholas Hoult is loving enjoying just doing these stupid bits. It's great.
I just love the social. Somebody, I saw a comment on one of these posts that they just love how the social media marketing team for this movie is working so closely and so well with the actors. Starting to become the Joker. He was. No, absolutely. If you watch that back, I played it on loop.
A lot of people say Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor was essentially the Joker in that movie.
It's, having a maniacal side to I was gonna say the Joker. Having a maniacal side to Lex Luthor isn't necessarily a bad idea, but this is social media marketing. I bet you in the movie, his character is the most calculated one in the entire film.
With the cape. Mm-hmm.
So, but the clip itself, I don't know if you can play the clip. This is funny because it's just kind of playing. It's just, this is trending audio.
Obviously, you guys can't hear it because you're oh, I'm jealous of you, and it's laughing obnoxiously, and it's apparently a meme, and it's
it's a meme. It also leans into the idea that Nicholas Hoult did audition for Superman and ultimately lost the role to David Cornsweet.
He also lost the role of Batman to Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, he did, unfortunately. But hey, you know what? Now he is Lex Luthor, which it looks like it's not going to be a one-off either, so he'll be around for a long time. I love this. And you know what's also great about this, because we'll keep on talking about it as we go through the rest of the show. Nicholas Hoult hasn't really shown up in most of those tour appearances, probably because he's busy with other projects. And so I like that they're reintegrating him, because it seems like they just did the press junket and they had all the actors involved in there. And that includes, of course, Nicholas Hoult, but they did a lot of social media marketing, because people were like, well, we're seeing David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan, but before that, it seemed like you couldn't separate the trio. Where the heck is Nicholas Hoult? And so now he's back, which is, it's just good to see that. In fact, I had to take out 10 things from today's show rundown, because there's so much to talk about already. I'm like, we got to save some of this stuff for Tuesday, because we ain't got time. Although it's going to be Tuesday by the time we finish this show. But anyway, you guys get what I'm trying to say. So we will have lots more of this social media stuff on tomorrow's show too. But John, like you were doing earlier, let's talk about that new clip, because they keep putting out more footage. And this next one is a closer look at Lex Luthor entering the Fortress of Solitude, which is pretty gosh darn fantastic. This was on the Today Show. You could probably let that one play out. It's a clip that they released on the Today Show. They've been doing this press junket, right? So like you get access from all of these different networks, and this scene obviously we have seen in the trailers a lot. Like CBS News did a feature on Superman, which we'll talk about tomorrow, and James Gunn was on there, and you know obviously this clip is from the Today Show on NBC. And Nicholas Hoult was there, and you can really get to see like him monologuing about it, and again you get more of like the
they
psyche.
caught him monologuing.
Do you want to read some of what he says in the
Oh,
clip?
yeah,
Because this is pretty fantastic.
So yeah,
Pardon
so
the pun.
this is what Nicholas Hoult was saying in terms of. I did see this clip with the two of them like talking about. Look at his hair. Look at his jawline. And then he started speaking. I shook his hand. I was like, his pants are bigger than me. Not Les Grossman levels of big, but you know, still pretty big. And in the moment we were shaking hands, I was like, I'd be happy if this guy was Superman. I was like, you're perfect for it. I mean, yeah, like everyone like fan casted him for like so damn long because he looked so much like Henry Cavill, like a young Henry Cavill. So they're like, all right, let's do that.
Yeah.
But like he's actually a really great actor. He's a dork. He's a nerdy little fella. So he looks like a Kryptonian. Well, if we were going by the god awful J.J. Abrams script for Superman Flyby, he would have been a Kryptonian. So, you know. I haven't read that script, but I like the more information I hear about it, the more I'm like, how the fuck did J.J. Abrams become like a huge name? This guy's a fucking idiot. Like, what?
Well, I mean, he came up through television, and then he did a few good things with movies, and I think people were just like, he's the guy to kickstart a franchise. And obviously, I think he has had some good ones along the way. I think The Force Awakens is the best of the sequel trilogy, which isn't saying much.
Bars in hell.
I know, it's not saying much, but still, like the first one was good. Like I mean, you know,
in fact, fun fact, both J.J. Abrams directed Star Wars sequels. David Fincher was considered for both, but they went with J.J. Abrams for 7, and he turned down 9 because he didn't want to do franchise filmmaking.
He probably also didn't want to not clean up the mess, but I guess it's again, well, that's a whole different side story. We all know how there was no plan, and then you know Ryan, what's his face? What's his name again? Ryan, Knives Out guy.
Rian Johnson.
Anyway, Rian Johnson just completely was like, it's the middle movie of a trilogy.
Is his name Rian, or is it just Ryan spelled?
Rian, whatever. Fuck, it's Rian. Rian Johnson. I think he says it like Ryan. It's like Ryan, but with an I. Anyway. Rian Johnson basically made a middle of a trilogy movie that was like a trilogy capper movie. And so like obviously at that point people were like, well, I don't know where we go from here, because that's the last Jedi. Yeah, the Last Jedi felt like it was movies 2 and 3 of the franchise. Anyway, we're getting distracted. I mean, this was great. This was great. I think we might or might not have the clip that shows our first look at the Hall of Justice in today's show. If we don't, then we'll bring that in for tomorrow. But anyway, John, let's keep going here because we've got more Superman stuff.
But another Nicholas Hoult clip, and he was like talking about how he did actually shave his head. His kid did it for him. So apparently his oldest son shaved his head specifically. And so then he's like talking about James Gunn and how it's got, you know, the typical like rhetoric we've heard a million times before of like, oh, it's fun, it's entertaining, James Gunn's a genius, blah, blah, blah. Like kind of just the same things we've like. I'm not shitting on it because I mean they have on these like talk shows and morning shows, they got to say the most like obnoxious kind of shit, or just like, all right, they just got to say the same thing over and over again, that the same stuff they've said a million times, and it's like, all right, okay, but like still cool, still like we get some like bits and pieces, like the anecdote about his kid fucking shaving his head. All right, that's cute. But yeah, I think I think you know, it's all cute. It's all it's all wonderful, I guess, in a way. But yeah. Moving on to the next thing, we're talking about Isabella Merced was talking about Superman and how just her character specifically in the
Yeah, I think so. The big thing
in
that
the
she
movie.
says here, but is, but by the way, I did want to point out in the previous clip, the whole question that prompts the conversation about the hair is because there was the presenter on the show, the interviewer, the host, they were like, was that a bald cap or is that CGI? He's like, no, I actually went bald. Like, you know, this is my actual head bald, and my kids helped me out with it, which was kind of fun.
Yeah,
But
it's
then,
cute.
yeah, and then the Isabella Merced clip. I mean, she's like only in her 20s, and she's been in like 5 different franchises. Remember, she was in the last Michael Bay Transformers movie. She was
Ew.
also, of course,
She was also Dora the Explorer.
Dora the Explorer. Was she in the Power Rangers movie?
No, you're thinking of Naomi Scott.
Naomi Scott. Okay, never mind. But she was in this is, well, The Last of Us.
The Last of Us.
That's the right behind her.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and she's got so many iconic roles on there. Obviously, we know that we're gonna get to see her in Peacemaker as well. So that's gonna be fun. I can't wait for that. That footage so far looks fantastic. Again, pardon the pun.
Yes. Anything you want, Hawkgirl.
By the way, the big thing about
Oh no, Dan froze. Well, so here we are. We are here. Becky G was in Power Rangers. Yes. Yeah, but wasn't Naomi Scott also in that as well? Yes. Yes, we know. All right, Dan's out of commission for the time being. So yeah, let's just kind of going through character motivations of like, oh, it's going to be like kind of like almost like an anti-hero kind of thing instead of just a true blue hero, which is, interesting enough. And really, really exciting for her. And I can't wait to see her version of Hawkgirl. I know it's like Kendra Saunders, that specific version. So yeah. But moving on to the next thing. So we got David Corenswet here. Uh, it's just like, wholesome David Corenswet. It's just, David Corenswet, our boy, just being, absolutely wonderful. And it's showcasing like I like the idea of like having a character like be kind of true to what he is, but like just being naturally that. Like that's pretty awesome. And then of course all these I gotta say, and the man has great hair too. No wonder Lex is so jealous. Just look at that haircut.
sorry,
But yeah, you kind of
I
out a little bit.
Penguin is still after me, man. I don't even know. It's just it keeps happening. I'm back. You were saying.
But yeah, no, I just love all these clips. It's just this montage of like just
The dad
like,
jokes. Yeah.
very like his dad jokes is like
Mhm.
be good but not boring. All these,
He's a big
cute
nerd.
little
Like
thing.
he's a big Star Wars.
He's a
fan,
huge
isn't he?
nerd.
Yeah.
Like James Gunn said, he's like, this dude listens to like old like blues records. This guy's a nerd.
He's too pure for this world. I love how yeah, the comments are great too. He's like, Henry Cavill, your legacy is in good hands. He also gives Brendan Fraser energy in the best way. Love it. Love
Yeah.
it. Love it. Love it.
I yeah, love all these comments.
Okay.
He also,
Oh, by the way,
yes.
Enterprising pointed out Becky G was in Power Rangers. That's who I was confusing Isabella Merced with. Never mind. Go ahead.
Hold on, I'm looking this up. Hang on. Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm
Also,
back from the
Naomi
damn
Scott
mission.
was in fucking Power Rangers. Okay,
She was. No, she was.
Yes.
No, I'm not saying she wasn't.
Kimberly Hart.
There was
the Pink
she was
Ranger.
she was the Pink
Okay.
Ranger, and then Becky G was the Yellow Ranger. I thought it was like Isabella Merced as the Yellow Ranger, which
So
anyway.
Becky G was the Yellow Ranger.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
what it was.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But the original Kimberly also had a cameo, which growing up anyway, and then Tommy before Jason David Frank passed away about.
Yeah. But yeah, himbo energy.
Himbo, yeah, that's exactly the vibe. I love this. Again, I think they've cast the right person, and all this stuff that we're seeing now in the promotional stuff, and people are digging up his old clips of all these interviews he's done in the past when he was really not all that well known. I think it's gonna age well. At least we hope so. Again, right? And then you see this is clearly an older clip, right? Well before he signed up for Superman. These are the shots we were using before we had any official images of him as Superman. So again, love it. I'm still not a fan of his current haircut, but then again, he might be working on another project. He might just want to keep it short for the summer. Hello, Steven. How are you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame him if he wants to keep it short for the summer because this fucking heat is just killing all of us, quite literally.
Yeah, slowly, sneaks up on you. But anyway. Lots more to come. Lots more to go.
And we have, more fun, very fun, wonderful clips. And Nicholas Hoult just being a queen, king, whatever it is. This is just cute stuff. I don't really know what to say specifically, but
this is the part that I was going to mention, or I was mentioning earlier, that Nicholas Hoult hasn't really been a part of the press tour, right? Because he's probably either not contractually obligated or he's got other stuff going on. So we have seen, obviously James Gunn. We have seen Peter Safran at that first stop in Manila. We've seen Rachel Brosnahan and David Cornsweet. The three of them, Gunn, Cornsweet, and Brosnahan, are primarily the ones on tour. And of course, they're going to London soon, so maybe Nicholas Hoult will join them there. But as part of the whole press junket that they did, which included all these interviews and television show appearances, and maybe even radio and whatever, and internet outlets. But also they did this whole photo shoot, which we will get into later in the show in the DCU Daily proper. And so obviously, Chris, I was going to say Nicholas Hoult is back as part of that whole situation. So I think the social media was worried that where has Nicholas Hoult disappeared to? So this is like he's back together with, at last the trio is back together. So anyway, there you go. That's the explanation behind that clip. It's fun. It's cute. Again, more social media marketing. And if you guys are, regulars on Instagram or TikTok, then you'll understand.
11 more days.
Yeah. Well, it depends on which screening you're going to see, right? Because if you're going to see the one on the 8th, then it's only 8 days away for you. And if you're going to go see the one on Friday, which, I mean, even 11 days, that's sort of like if you go see it on the Friday, most people will probably, and most people watching the show are going to probably end up seeing it on Thursday, right? Or sooner. If you're abroad, there's countries where the movie lands on Wednesday. So yeah, we are literally not even a week and a half away now. And yeah, it couldn't come faster.
That's July 11th.
Anyway, so let's keep the ball rolling.
Yes, let's just more they're doing,
the mannequin challenge.
God, this is
I like it. I'm surprised.
It's like the mannequin challenge. That was like 5 years ago now.
I get it, but I'm like, you know what? They're bringing it back. They say it in the caption. I love to see. You love to see it. I don't know what the Bizarro comment is about.
David Cornsweet was in that post, and you could see Bizarro in the background too.
Oh, really? Where?
Hold on, there was a news play. I can't, and it's Instagram. I can't.
Am I missing it?
But somebody says in the comments, "Wow, Bizarro." Hold on, Havoc in Metropolis, all that. Hang on, I gotta reset the clip. It's like okay, so before I start the clip again, it's behind Lois on the cork board, behind Lois, which is after David Cornsweet. So, Rachel Brosnahan. So there we go. There's David. There he is. And then you could see there in the background. And right there behind Lex too. There it is.
Okay. All right.
So
that's in the movie or not?
Means anything. I'm just saying that's very interesting.
True. Yeah. I mean, again, we don't know if it's going to end up in the movie or not, but it's great that, and the marketing campaign behind this is definitely, they're taking whatever they did for Barbie and they're double tripling it for this movie.
Because James Gunn already confirmed it's Ultraman. So
yeah, it is Ultraman. Who is behind the mask? We don't know yet. Our bet is probably
it's
David
Homelander.
Cornswell.
It's Homelander.
Yeah, unlikely. But by the way, Frankie G, I know you're watching the movie on Saturday, so I'm just going to tell you for next week, we are all pretty much going to see the early screening on Tuesday. So, the Amazon Prime one, Bridget, myself, John, and Liz. So we're going to have a non-spoiler discussion on Tuesday. We're going to be talking about it on Monday because we're going to start to get reactions, I'm sure, once the review embargo drops on Monday. So we'll do that, and then so be aware of potential. We'll let you guys know. We'll obviously give you the spoiler warning graphic and everything. But there's might be some spoilery stuff later on in the show too, so we'll put that up. But then on Wednesday, Thursday, we're gonna obviously continue to have non-spoiler conversations, break things down. And then Friday, we'll do a full spoiler discussion and review for the movie. So if you're seeing the movie on Saturday, just know that. And this is something, I'm saying it here, but we will put this up somewhere on our channel so you guys can see the schedule, because for next week, I know it's a big week and we'll have the schedule up. So, and yeah, hi, Elite Easy. And Johnny is in the chat. I don't know if you were typing any. Well, hello, Johnny. There you go. I didn't see you in the chat earlier.
That's funny.
But yeah, this is great though. I mean, obviously, great core strength on the part of David Cornsweat to be able to.
I know. I was looking at this. I was like, "Damn, look at that!" Like that, you could see in his eyes, like, "Oh, how much longer do I have to hold this?" I will say, Nick Holt, that he's rocking that fit. Like that, he had the loose tie, but he had the nice, like
the baggy pants, man. Like it's coming back. Nice shoes, it's all coming back.
Very, very good. Wendell Pierce, lovely.
Yep.
Isabella Merced with those glossy stilettos. Anyway,
you'll see more.
Back to this channel the following Monday.
You're gonna see a lot more of everybody in this later on in the show, where we have more stuff from the press junket and the photo shoot and everything that they were doing. But yeah, we have got a few more things to talk about here for now. Let's keep going. Lots more Superman content coming up. So, what's next?
Next, it's just again.
He's like, I'm going to London. And then he's like, oh shit, he's going to London. London? And it's like, this is from, if you scroll down in the comments, this is from a British soap opera. Where'd it go?
Understood. Coronation Street.
Yes, Coronation Street. That it is. Coronation Street. It makes total sense. They're about to go to London, and I love it. I watched this so many times. I was like, this is hilarious. And again, the core strength, you know what? Superman does not skip abs day, whatever. Anyway, just
core strength, whatever it is. Anyway.
Whatever. Yeah, anyway.
Whatever. It's fine.
Goes to show you how often we go to the gym. Anyway, moving on to the next thing. It's the Silver Summer of Superman. This new teaser, you can see there's some more shots that we haven't seen before, like the holy shit shot. Well, I think we have seen the holy shit shot. But we do get to see.
Yeah, we did see holy shit. It's called M3gan. It is definitely shit. Anyway, but yeah, it's mostly comprised of footage that we've seen before, like Lex and Guy Gardner and all that.
It's an extended
we saw
version
Lois
of
saying holy shit though.
I have seen that before, but it's they do cut her off, obviously. But anyway,
yeah,
we do get to see more of that Guy Gardner shot where he's like flipping soldiers off with his. It's an extension of the shot we've seen before. We actually, I think we might. Do we have another one? We do have. No, actually, I might have saved. There's more stuff that I saved for tomorrow, but there might be something in Quick Hits. Actually, yeah, we've got another teaser to go through in Quick Hits. So don't you worry, guys. We got more coming. But John, this billboard, this massive billboard. I think this is LA.
I like how it's. Yeah, it definitely looks like it. I like how it's like at an angle, so like you have the Superman, like what they've done.
He's holding it up, the whole thing,
yeah.
And then the S lights up at night.
That's awesome.
I love it.
That's totally not going to be a distraction for drivers.
Totally not. I mean, clearly. I mean, well, it's also very simple.
If Peon Carl fucking fucks up people's driving, then the S is probably going to. So
I mean, look,
points
Caleb,
if you get that reference.
I will say though, Caleb, this movie does not look cheap. To people who are saying that are just they're not even like lazy criticisms. They're just false, like completely false. Like that Office reference, like false. Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
You're
What was
just
it?
two steps away. You're just 2 steps away
Yeah.
from being Dwight. Bears beats Battlestar Galactica. Do you like bears? Do you like beats?
I don't actually like beets. I don't think I've ever had beets. It does look amazing so far. But yeah, no, he's like imitation. What was it? Imitation? No, identity theft is
Identity theft is not a joke, Jim. Millions of families suffer every year.
Michael is
Michael!
Anyway, okay.
No. Anyway, no snack, no beets. I'm not eating a snack right now. I ate all my snacks. Unfortunately,
I have crackers nearby. I'm not eating,
but I will be eating something. I'll be eating a salad a little bit later because I've been eating very bad lately. So I'm like, I gotta have a salad. So
got a ginger ale, sponsor us, please.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, it looks like the CW is like. Do you know how bad the CW is? Because I do. Because I watch that shit.
Dude, they had like probably one person with an old, Adobe After Effects version before the Creative Cloud doing their VFX. This movie, on the other hand, has some of the best VFX in the game. So we're gonna get to see more and more of that when we see the movie.
Although I assume the haters called it the Averagers. So
it's not an event. It's not a Justice League movie. Who give it's apples to oranges. Like seriously, guys. But we do have Luke 2006 in the chat. Luke, I don't know if we've seen you in the chat before. If you are new, then of course hit the like button and hit subscribe. You're here 5 days a week. We can have this conversation, Monday through Friday.
I think we've gotten pretty much everyone though.
That is a good question though. Look, here's the thing. Here's what I'm gonna say, Luke. Chances are no, because there's already so much we're getting. But I bet you James Gunn probably somehow will probably sneak in at least 1 or 2 tiny cameos, truly cameos, because every character we have seen so far in the trailers, they're not what you would call cameos. The Justice Gang is not cameoing in this movie. They have a role to play. But I wouldn't be surprised if Booster Gold has a cameo, even if it's just like a news report on a TV screen that somebody's watching for
or Blue Beetle or
Blue Beetle. Like I totally expect something like that. You might even get references to Gotham, because in fact, we have seen from the Daily Planet newsletter that they show that the how in the Zack Snyder movies they showed the Gotham and Metropolis football teams playing, and Cyborg was on the Gotham team. But in this movie, Gotham Knights, whatever they were called. But in this movie, we have seen like the Gotham. I forgot what their names was, but like Superman,
the Metropolis Meteors versus I think the Gotham. Something. It was on Steve Lombard's thingy.
But basically, Steve Lombard is like the sports guy, right? He's the sports beat writer. So he's reporting on a baseball game right in the middle of which Superman ends up in the fight with Ultraman in the stadium where the Meteors play, which in reality is the Cleveland Guardians Stadium. So yeah, we will probably get to see stuff like that where, like Bizarro we just talked about. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get Booster Gold in there somewhere. I would not be surprised if he's, get a reference to Gotham City somewhere beyond what we already talked about with baseball. So I think that would be very, very clever. I mean, Blue Beetle, like you said, John, and like what Luke was saying earlier, Blue Beetle could be another one. Of course, we know there's a Blue Beetle animated show on the way. So yeah, that would be nice. What? That show looked good for. Yes, they did. That was exactly the point. Superman and Lois did a fantastic job. In fact, they took the philosophy of like how Zack Snyder did the VFX for Man of Steel, the DCEU version, more or less. Except then they kind of brightened things up a bit. But you could tell like they were very much inspired by that era. But again, I mean, this is a new era, and James Gunn is doing his own thing. So excited to see what this turns into. Is that the last thing that we have for the now? Okay, yeah. But we do have more Superman stuff coming later in the show. But that's a lot of the Superman promotion stuff that we can get into today. But we're not done yet because we will have a few more Superman things. We've got some Wonder Woman news later. James got even hinting at Nubia potentially getting in on the action in the DCU down the road. You know what, though, John? If they do attach end credits tag that we haven't seen in the press junket screenings, seeing Lobo would be fantastic, although it's unlikely.
It's unlikely.
Yeah, they might name drop Bruce Wayne or Batman, but we're not going to see him. or if you do, it will probably be again a silhouette of some kind because they haven't decided on that stuff yet. And yeah, Elite EZ, Gotham Griffins, that was the name. Thank you for
Thank
pointing
you
that
for
out.
that. That is majorly helpful.
Yep. So guys, let us know in the comments down below which of those promotional pieces, like from this incredibly comprehensive and quite frankly genius marketing campaign that Superman is putting up, was your favorite today. I mean, like I said, I took out literally, no joke, at least 10 things from today's show to save for tomorrow because the show is already so long that it was, if we would have been here for another 20 minutes just talking Superman, which look, that's not a bad thing. We want to use this 20 minutes to talk about the Superman press junket because James Gunn gave us a ton of new details that we're going to dive into about this movie and the whole cinematic universe as a whole, the DCU as it were, or as it will be. So we will dive into that in the latter half of the show. But yeah, yeah, that would be nice. Lead easy. Jaime Reyes probably watching the fight. Although it depends again how directly the Blue Beetle movie that we got in the DCEU connects in terms of canonicity, if that's a word, to this version of the DCU. So yeah, Vixen would be nice. I guess there's been enough time between when the Legends of Tomorrow ended to now that people forget about that version.
Yes.
Yeah. Restore the Dan cut. You know what? Yes, please make that trend. Restore the Dan cut. I don't know what that would be, but I wouldn't mind it. You know what? Ted Kord's Blue Beetle. That might be. I think that might be asking a bit much right now. Maybe down the road. But maybe not just yet. Although, yes, I do believe James Gunn will give us a Ted Kord Blue Beetle in this universe. I just don't think it's going to happen in this movie. The show must go on, as Enterprising said. Before we do, though, just some geeky guy. Thank you again. Thank you for dropping by. Thank you for the super chat. We really always appreciate the support. And your super chat was about which storyline should James Gunn adapt as the endgame finale of his DCU. I suggest either Mark Waid's Kingdom Come or Rock of Ages. I actually, ironically enough, Mark Waid, they were just advertising that he's doing a Q&A session next week. I think it's 10th or the 11th. So like basically when Superman comes out, and they were taking in questions through Discord. So he's going to be doing a Q&A session on I don't know, maybe on the Instagram account. So he's definitely a part of the brain trust over at DC right now. John, what would you prefer, or do you have another idea beyond?
I would say don't adapt the storyline. I would say take inspiration from various and create something new, because I would love to see straight adaptations of stuff. But here's the thing: what they should do straight adaptations for animation. Then you just see the comic book straight from and then having like a little bit here and there to like make it slightly different, tweak it for a movie, tweak it for a show, do that, and then just like grab bits and pieces from all course of history with these characters and then just make something new.
I feel like that's probably what they're doing anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, James Gunn has said multiple times with this movie, yes, All-Star Superman and Superman for All Seasons are like kind of the blueprint for it, but it's still its own thing. It's still doing its own thing. It's just those are the inspirations for them.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. Obviously, at this point, depending on which screening you're going to see, the movie is, I mean, a week away. Look, it's Tuesday now on the East Coast. It's hours plus, like it's a week plus a few hours away for John and I when we're gonna go see it. So, and if any of you guys are gonna go see it, on that Tuesday, we're gonna get all the answers we need, even on Monday maybe, because if you choose to dive into the spoilery parts of the reviews when their embargo drops. I will say though, just some geeky guy, I think I saved this for tomorrow because I just came across it after we started the show. But we'll bring it up tomorrow too. I just want to mention it. David Cornswet said in one of the press junkets interviews, I should say, that his favorite superhero growing up was Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. So if you get Tobey Maguire as Ted Kord, that would be kind of ironic in some grand way, I think. So they do reference. Actually, no, I don't think they reference Brainiac yet. We have seen references of Bizarro, Metallo. Supposedly Superman's already fought Metallo. But we haven't seen anything for Legion of Doom. We haven't seen anything for Brainiac yet. But yeah, I'm sure we're gonna get more of that. And look, general audiences buying into this movie is the key to it making the kind of money that it needs to, in order for DC to consider it successful. Not only that, but also from a critical, standpoint. If the critics love it, great. But if the fans love it, even better. Because the thing about Man of Steel was it had a 57% Rotten Tomato score with the critics, 75% with the audiences. In both areas, it was pretty divisive. So this movie needs to probably score in the 80s or 90s on both fronts in order for DC to be like, okay, this is great. This movie is successful, gives us the foundation to build from here. And they've already got 5 things in the works, so hopefully they'll work on it, or be able to adjust. But hopefully they won't do like what they did before, which were like a hard left turn from Zack Snyder's vision after clearly it wasn't working, which is not going to be the case here because James Gunn is the co-CEO. So I think he knows firmly what he likes, what he wants, and then I think so far the results speak for themselves. Creature Commandos was amazing. Peacemaker, is amazing. Will be amazing. Hopefully season 2. And Superman so far looks amazing as well. With that, guys, we're gonna keep the ball rolling here because we do have to get into some other news stories. So, we are gonna. By the way, we're gonna get back into Superman stuff. We have Wonder Woman stuff, Nubia stuff, as well as other Batman stuff. Brave and the Bold. Who's actually writing Brave and the Bold? We're gonna talk about that and so much more. But right now, we have to switch gears because we have to talk about, of course, James frickin' Bond and 007. We know the director now, Denis Villeneuve, the director of the Dune franchise so far. I mean, he's doing a whole trilogy's worth of movies. He's currently working on Dune Messiah, after which he's going to step away from the director's chair for that and move over, while still producing the many future Dune installments. He's going to be an executive producer. He will be involved. He will go on to direct the next James Bond film for Amazon MGM Studios. Now, John, before we dive into all the little pieces of, not little pieces, but there's many pieces of news coming out, as a postmortem, as a consequence, basically the aftermath of that big announcement of Denis Villeneuve signing on as director. Before we get into all of that, I want to hear from you because you weren't on the show, and I mean, you don't necessarily need to spend a ton of time on this, but definitely give us your take on the on not the casting, but the hiring of Denis Villeneuve as the director, because he also said in his statement, in that press release when they announced him, that there's lots of missions. Like, he used the plural word, missions. He obviously considered James Bond sacred. He was a huge fan growing up, and the way he described his interest in the franchise, it looks like he might be around for more than just one movie. So overall, what are your thoughts on that news? And then maybe we can from there transition into who's going to play Bond, and we have a bunch of news about that too. So what do you think about Denis Villeneuve?
I don't think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be around for more than one movie. I think he was just saying, like, he was inspired by the many missions. He might go back to the books, all that kind of thing. I don't think we're going to be getting more than one movie from Villeneuve. But I think Villeneuve is kind of the perfect choice because he's kind of weirdly safe. I'm not, and I don't mean that as like a knack on him, but like it's not like a weird out there choice. Like Denis Villeneuve, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, this guy makes sense for Bond with the vibe he's done with like Sicario, like doing like kind of like grounded action like Sicario, doing noir themes with like Blade Runner 2049, as well as like a lot of character driven stuff with the Dune films. So, it's all of that. So I think Villeneuve is kind of like a weird safe, but like to the point where it's like okay, I kind of like expect that because like with how much these guys have like Paul King would have been or Edgar Wright would have been much more out there than Denis Villeneuve. However, it's still out there enough that it's like he'll give us something that's not just the same old crap over and over again. He'll give us something that's hopefully not like Die Another Day or Moonraker, but something that's like more prestige, but like that is like doing new things and all that. So I think that's a good choice. But I think what they should do, and a friend of mine said this, that what they should do is what Mission Impossible did for the first 5 movies, and then it became the rest of the franchise, unfortunately, was each film of the Mission Impossible for the first 5 felt like their respective directors. Like, the first one felt like a Brian De Palma film. The second one felt like a John Woo movie. The third one felt like a J.J. Abrams movie. And the fourth one felt like a Brad Bird movie. And then the fifth one felt like a Christopher McQuarrie movie. But even though Fallout was easily one of the best Mission Impossible movies, it did kind of lose it a bit, where like by the end of it, at least the last 2 movies, many people think that it was like a lackluster ending for the franchise, and thought that Fallout should have been the ending, and they just kind of, Christopher McQuarrie went too far, and they should have gotten someone else to do it instead of just doing what they did. And that's what I think, and I agree with that. This is not my own point, this is my my friend's point, and I agree with this for the Bond franchise. I think, and plus Denis Villeneuve has so much which is good, because those were not better received, so in terms of the fandom and critically. But I think no, here's the thing. I would say the Wachowskis, they have not made a good movie since the first Matrix. I'm gonna say that right now. I know, like, they're like considered like the greatest, like what Speed Racer, that only became a cult film like much later on, and like Jupiter Ascending was terrible, the Matrix sequels were terrible. From what people have said about them, I can't judge them. I'm just going off of what other people have said. So, don't do the Wachowskis. I don't think they would be a good fit for this. And I think there's a lot of great directors. Like, I would say, I mean, Denis Villeneuve, he's French Canadian, so, and not a British director. So that goes like, okay, they're really starting to like kind of do some more out there things. You could get a British director, you can get a not, like, I would say, I know Steven Soderbergh has wanted to do a Bond movie for years. I think he would be a great choice, especially with how excellent Black Bag was. And that was essentially, I feel like that whole movie was an audition tape for a Bond movie. So, I think that would work as well. But I think Denis Villeneuve is definitely a good choice. But he has a lot lined up. He has Dune Messiah. He has Rendezvous with Rama. He has now this. And he has God knows how many other projects. So it makes sense that he would be a one and done. And he would just move on from that. So, yeah, I think, but it just depends on who they get for their Bond, because the shortlist is not great, and I don't think they don't scream. None of them scream Bond to me. Harris Dickinson is probably the best one, but that's kind of a low bar. But
you're jumping ahead a little bit.
We'll get into the shortlist later, but like, I'll spoil it for a little bit, but I'll tease that. But yeah, let's get into the actual official. Well, yeah, those are like considered some of the best ones of all time. But Antoine Fuqua could be a good choice.
Antoine Fuqua could be. I was gonna say that's probably a good pick. It just depends on, again, Antoine Fuqua is really good with action stuff. I just don't know. I mean, with storytelling, that's the thing. I'm like, you're looking for like James Bond movies have become more and more prestige, unless they want to go back to the Pierce Brosnan era, which is fine if you just want to make popcorn blockbusters. I don't know if Antoine Fuqua has the. But then again, you know what? I feel like he's done some good stuff. I don't know. I feel like Antoine Fuqua might be a really underrated, great name. The man has some, like, okay, Equalizer movies are great. Southpaw. He's done some really good stuff, but he would need a really good script. I think he can pull it off. Antoine Fuqua would be a great pick, I think. Really underrated. Great name, Elite Easy. Oh, we got The Watcher. Hey, Toby is the goat. He always has been and always will be. David's a goat because goats recognize mother goats. So you know David's a goat because he knows Toby's one. Okay. Got your reference, or I understood your logic, I should say. Watcher, we will get back into Superman stuff later. So definitely stick around for that. But John, as you were just talking about, there is more news in the James Bond front as a result of Denis Villeneuve now being officially confirmed as a director of the next Bond movie. We have people like, potential actors who might want to sign up to be Bond, as well as, other folk in the business just sort of pitching their versions or talking about like whether they'd be interested in the role. One of whom We just heard this from, of course, Matthew Good talking about how he once pitched a really dark version of 007, which got him dropped from Casino Royale editions entirely. He wanted an alcoholic, drug addict, a Bond that hates women. Which I'm like, look, it feels like Daniel Craig's Bond had some of those qualities, like the alcoholism, which is a part of James Bond's identity. I mean, I guess it depends on how you define alcoholism in the sense that he drinks a lot of alcohol. It just, I don't know if he's like, drinking himself to death. Although, again, we kind of do see a little bit of that in the latter of Daniel Craig movies. Drug addiction, I mean, I don't know, painkiller addiction. You see him taking a lot of that, which it's kind of meta because Daniel Craig had several major injuries while filming those Bond movies, which is part of the reason why, I mean, he almost retired from the Bond franchise like twice, or practically did. And there's like at least 2 or 3 Bond movies. I'm like, he was ready to like go off into the sunset before we even got to Skyfall, seemingly, or the beginning of Skyfall. He's like, oh, his character's dead. Well, not really, right? But then he goes off into the sunset at the end of Spectre. Then he's back for No Time to Die. It's like, anyway, you get it. Like, I think people are tired of seeing James Bond wanting to retire from being James Bond 5 years into being 007. So they probably want something a little brighter, which is why I don't think Matthew Good's pitch would fly today, much like it didn't back then. What do you think?
But here's the thing. This is literally the James Bond from the books. So he's essentially just pitching the book James Bond.
Which is fair, yeah.
Which I think would have been interesting. I can't see Matthew Good as Bond. I think from an acting point of view, I think Matthew Good would do excellently. However, he doesn't have the face for it. It's too awkward. The man has like no chin. It's just like Matthew Good is too awkward of a guy to like make that like kind of suaveness, good looking aspect work, but he would absolutely like act the hell out of it. It's just like he doesn't have that look. He doesn't have that like quintessential kind of look. So, but that's just my opinion. But I think this would have been awesome, but I think it was kind of too ahead of its time, maybe, or too past its time, whatever you want to do that. But I think Henry Cavill is kind of the thing with Henry Cavill. He was the perfect choice 10 years ago. He was, if they decided to reboot after like Skyfall or Spectre, I think that would have been like he could have come in to do it. Like that would have been like essentially. I feel like there is an alternate history after Skyfall. Daniel Craig's like, I'm not doing anymore. I did a trilogy. We're done. And then instead of doing Man of Steel, he did James Bond instead, and that's what we got. Like I feel like there's some kind of alternate timeline where Cavill did Bond instead of Superman. He would have been perfect. It's just like now, especially with the shortlist, which we'll get into soon enough, he's considered too old. He's 40. They don't want a 40-year-old Bond. They want a very young Bond to start a franchise with.
I'm not so convinced. You know why? Because, they want to start a franchise and everything else like that. I mentioned it the other day. I mean, but look, clearly, Henry Cavill isn't A, box office poison, and B, too old, because you look at the movies that he's got going. He's trying to launch the Warhammer franchise, however long that takes. He's in the Voltron movie. He's going to be in at least 2, if not hopefully more, Highlander movies, because I don't think they bring in the kind of talent they brought in just to do a single one-off Highlander film. And hopefully Highlander 2 this time is a lot better than the last time they tried that. But anyway, so he's clearly still got the ability to pull these roles off. I also feel like Henry Cavill doesn't look like somebody in his 40s, quite frankly. I wouldn't mind seeing him. I don't think the boat has sailed, because you could start with an older version of Bond. Like, look at Daniel Craig. I feel like Henry Cavill looks younger than Daniel Craig did. Cavill looks younger today than Daniel Craig did when he did the first Bond movie, in a lot of ways. And the physique is there, obviously, and all that stuff, I think, matches up. Anyway. The Superman curse, I don't know. The Superman curse, I think he's trying to break it. And he's probably the most successful actor outside of playing Superman of any actor to date. to be honest, right? Even with David Cornstedt's story is yet to be written, but when you look at it, between Christopher Reeve, Dean Cain, Tom Welling, Tyler Hoechlin, Brendan Routh, Henry Cavill is by far the most well-known, most successful actor, especially outside of Superman, which is what we're talking about. He's broken the Superman curse already, quite frankly. I mean, he was Superman, but he's also one of the most memorable parts of the Mission Impossible movie franchise in recent years, even though he just did one. He's in a ton of other franchises now. He was The Witcher. You have no idea how many people love him from The Witcher. A lot of people they're like, you know what? Superman was great, but I heard it wasn't that good. The Witcher is where it's at. For a lot of people, their favorite role for Henry Cavill is The Witcher, not Superman. So I don't think that's a concern as much for Henry Cavill. But anyway, John, let's keep the ball rolling. We gotta get to the shortlist. Because people are typing it in. Yes, Tom Holland is on the shortlist supposedly. We will talk about that. Don't you worry, we're getting there. Henry Golding also had some comments because we talked about how when they announced Denis Villeneuve, and even before then, I think we have mentioned that Henry Golding has been one of the names that has been floating around saying, hey, we want to potentially have a more diversified, iteration of Bond moving forward. And you wouldn't have cast Henry Golding as James Bond 20, 30 years ago. But today, he could make a great James Bond. He's got the resume. I personally wouldn't mind it. John clearly is shaking his head. But he recently said that playing James Bond is every actor's kind of nightmare. Maybe I'm just a P word. I don't know, John. If you want to scroll down, we have more from him and what he mentions here. So he's already sort of saying that there's a big burden because, you want to kind of add something new to the franchise, but it's a double-edged sword because you're upholding the mantle of being Bond. Like, it's one of the oldest, most prestigious franchises in Hollywood. So, I mean, he's got the new movie, The Old Guard 2, which is where he was being interviewed for on the red carpet. He talked about this. What do you think about Henry Golding's comments? Do you even think that he would be a good pick if he were asked to, be Denis Villeneuve's Bond?
No, I don't think he would be good for that role.
Okay. Yeah, but what do you think about his comments that it's a double-edged sword because you do have to hold up the mantle?
Agree. That's pretty much
add something
you
new.
have to I think it's kind of 50-50, maybe like 60-40, like 60 upholding the original source material, but maybe just because here's the thing, if you do the kind of regimented doing this, if you make it a checklist, you get the Brosnan era, and the Brosnan era, according to many fans, while it's fun, is considered the weakest era for the character. So you have that aspect. If you make it a checklist, it's just not going to be interesting, and it's just going to be bland and tiresome after a while. But then if you constantly do weird new things with it, like Spectre did, then you fall flat on that again, and it just becomes not Bond. Oh yeah, let's make Blofeld his stepbrother because sure, and it just doesn't work. So you got to have Casino Royale is a perfect storm of it modernized everything, but it stayed true to what Bond was as a character. It brought back that initial book that was never properly adapted, and you do some new things with it, and you got one of, if not the best Bond film of all time. So there's a kind of a weird give and take to it all, that you have to uphold the source material for the most part, but give us some flavors of new so it doesn't become stale after a while. But don't do too much new, because then you're going to lose hardcore fans.
It's also it's cyclical, right? Because unlike Star Wars, where it's one continuity that's never been rebooted, or Star Trek even, it's like Doctor Who.
Star Trek was rebooted because the 2009 one rebooted it.
But they didn't really. Okay, so but they quickly made the distinction that was the what was the prime timeline? No, the prime timeline is the OG timeline, and that was the Kelvin timeline. So it is a reboot, but it's actually more like a multiverse situation where they're saying they didn't just abandon the previous timeline, because everything that's in Star Trek now, I know they're retroactively changing things, but it is meant to be that the current shows that are running are in the same timeline as the original shows with Kirk and and Picard and all that, which is why potentially, Jean-Luc Picard could have crossed paths, I guess, if they lived in the same century as Michael Burnham, which they obviously didn't. But anyway, my point is, unlike Star Trek, unlike Star Wars, or even, like the MCU, for example, which has, only been around in this one and current iteration, with James Bond, it's kind of more like Doctor Who, where it's been cyclical. They've done reboots and, retrofits and stuff like that, where
Godzilla's another
things
one.
change.
They've
Godzilla's
rebooted
a
that
great
couple
example.
times.
So in that way, I think for a franchise like that, you see there's a cyclicality to it, where, like, obviously we've already seen that with Bond. Like, we went from Sean Connery, which was for a lot of people still is the definitive Bond, to a Roger Moore, which was much more like puffy and more adventurous and over the top. But then after they did, what was it? Was it Moonraker? Then they did after that they brought in Timothy Dalton. I forget what the first one.
No, A View to a Kill was Moore's last film. Then Dalton made it like really fucking dark,
Like,
and it
they
was,
went from that to something exactly right. Like, they went from really high fantasy or sci-fi to a dark, grounded Bond, and then we went to Pierce Brosnan.
After the whole rights issues in the early 90s, they brought it back to the more like silly shit, like
Exactly.
Pierce Brosnan riding a fucking wave in the fucking Arctic or whatever the fuck that was. So yeah.
But anyway, so I'm just saying, like, maybe that's like the pendulum swings from a darker, grounded Daniel Craig Bond to a more Pierce Brosnan, or why am I forgetting? We were just Roger Moore Bond, or maybe somewhere in the middle. Who knows? I guess it depends on. I don't know if Denis Villeneuve would do that though, right? Like, you gotta imagine Denis Villeneuve was not hired to give us Moonraker, unless he's doing a much more realistic version of Moonraker. Anyway, we've got a couple of more things to get into here.
Actually, adapt the book this time rather than just like Moonraker, but Star Wars. So,
Yep. Pierce Brosnan had a couple of good movies, but they were never quite up to the quality or the bar that Daniel Craig said. I think even though the production values were not nearly the same, it's kind of like apples and oranges. I thought Sean Connery's Bond was better than a lot of what Brosnan did. But you know what? There is at least one or two Brosnan movies that I think fly under the radar. That don't necessarily hold up in every respect, but they're still decent.
I think Timothy Dalton, I will say, he's considered by many like hardcore Bond fans to be the most accurately portrayed Bond on screen, like to the books. So,
and he only went for 2 movies, and I feel like he doesn't get enough credit. Like, and you know what? Of all the Bond movies from the 20th century, his 2 probably hold up the best, quite frankly, compared to what we're getting. I would say
the first 3 Connerys are like, Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and Goldfinger are like the best of the Connery era. I would say On Her Majesty's Secret Service was really like, George Lazenby's kind of a weak Bond. He's not bad, but he's just kind of not up to snuff. But On Her Majesty's Secret Service was so friggin' good. Like, that, it's just a great movie. Like, overall, Telly Savalas, amazing Blofeld, all that. So yeah, he was great. And then obviously you get into the Moore era. I would say his best movies are probably you probably have like Live and Let Die, and then The Spy Who Loved Me. Live
and Let Die has some of the most one of the most iconic opening songs. Like, it's just
but you had that, and then
even the unofficial one, right? Did that become official at one point? Like, remember the scene they had one time? There was one year where Sean Connery did like the unofficial one,
Never Say Never Again.
And then at the same year, they had Roger Moore. What was his first?
They tried
Bond movie?
to readapt Thunderball and tried to make it like, it was like a sequel to like Diamonds Are Forever, and like that, like an alternate sequel, and like it was like he retired, but then he came back, but it was like also like readapting Thunderball, and it like didn't work, and it was.
I feel like the right situation for that, like they folded it into the larger Bond franchise. I don't know. I don't know if it's considered official now, but anyway, Intriguing details of Denis Villeneuve's James Bond deal plus Tom Holland on Amazon MGM shortlist of actors. John, if you want to scroll down here, let's take a look at what they're talking about. Some reported details from the Bond movie from Puck News. Now, remember, Puck News is the one they dropped the Michael Bay news last week about coming back for the Transformers, or working on potentially coming back for the Transformers franchise. They are okay. I don't know if we can give them 100% hit rate, but Puck News generally gets things right. I mean, the editor there, the lead editor, he's got good connections in the industry. So their reporting says that Denis Villeneuve won't have final cut on the movie, which is obviously a step down from what he's been doing.
Which is par for the course. That was the rule with the Broccolis as well, so that makes sense.
It's also is rare. You might think, oh yeah, a lot of directors. No, in terms of studio movies, it's rare. I feel like Christopher Nolan, Steven Spielberg, maybe Scorsese. Scorsese. You can count them on one hand the amount of directors that work with studio budgets and studio pictures that actually get final cut. James Cameron probably, but it's very, very rare. Todd Phillips got final cut, and we have seen the results of that. And that's one of the reasons why the directors don't always get final cut. Also because it's the studio's money. And not saying that every time somebody gets final cut, it works out badly. Although, Francis Ford Coppola, but it was his money, so I'm like, that's not the same situation. But the other things they say here, Denis Villeneuve signed on for just one project. It could change if it's successful. So this is where I was saying it's possible he could do a trilogy, but it looks like he's only signed on for one for now. Which, yeah, I mean, like you said, John, was it Sam Mendes who did Skyfall? Yes. And did he do more than one, or did he just do the one? Because I feel like he wanted to do more than one.
No, Sam Mendes didn't really want to come back.
Oh, he didn't.
Wanted to do one and done, but since Skyfall was so successful, that they're like, come back, and he's like, I don't really want to, but okay. And then we got Spectre, which was not very good.
LOL, Josh.
So,
yeah, makes sense.
I mean, Quentin Tarantino wanted to direct a Bond movie in the 90s. He's like, I wanted to make it like Casino Royale. It was going to take place in the 60s. It was going to be a period piece. He's like, I considered Pierce Brosnan. We talked about it. But then when I came in for the Broccolis, they're like, hell no. And then they eventually had the deal with the Fleming estate where they're like, you have to go to them for everything, not just James Bond. But like, if you want to do a Chitty Chitty Bang Bang movie, you had to go to the Broccolis. So,
Yeah. Yep. And then, of course, we had Cary Joji Fukunaga, who did No Time to Die. So they went in a really different direction for that one. Or why did I just say them? Cary Fukunaga. Yeah, that's what they go by. Anyway, the studio Amazon MGM is searching for a writer right now. So that's another question. Because we were thinking, hey, is Denis Villeneuve going to write the movie himself? It looks like that's not going to be the case. James Bond will be cast after the script is finished. So kind of like that James Gunn DC Studios approach, which is understandable. Is there anything else? I don't. So what about the shortlist, John, that they were talking about? Let's see if we can get down to that here.
Yeah, I think. Do we have it? Nope.
I believe if you scroll down on this same.
Scroll. Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So
So
I mean, there's only 3 names here. Report. This is from Variety, so they're saying the wish list includes Jacob Elordi, Tom Holland, Harris Dickinson. Age-wise, obviously, you're in that you're looking at, everybody's in their 20s or at most 30s, or even then, like probably just barely turning 30. So you're bringing in the longevity piece. Certainly, they'll be able to stick around for at least 2 to 3 movies. I know Aaron Taylor Johnson has been the big name kept coming up because he just got the Watch deal that in the past has been like a preview for the next Bond actor. Usually the two things go together. Like you get the deal. What was it? Was it what brand was that? Well, he did, because I know Liz was big on that. She was like, "That's literally what happened with Daniel Craig too." Let me just see if I can find that.
Quest.
No. It's something much more iconic than that. Omega.
That was so. There was like a circular letter in there.
So Aaron Taylor Johnson got an Omega deal, which, I mean, Henry Cavill is with the Swatch Group, so he's, I guess, if you go off that logic, the Henry Cavill's out the chase. But I mean, Aaron Taylor Johnson, I feel like would be better than all 3 of these options, quite frankly, because I feel like these guys are a little too young. I don't know how much I believe this.
No shit.
I think wasn't it? it remind me if I'm wrong about this, because I feel like I remember Tom Holland mentioning a year ago, or it was a couple of years ago after No Way Home came out, and right after No Time to Die had to happen. And obviously, the conversation at the time was hot about who's going to be the next Bond. I think Tom Holland pitched an idea at the time when the Broccoli's were still in charge, and they kindly said no to him, basically saying, we love that creativity and how you're being really proactive about
what
this.
happened was, I
But
think I remember that specific thing. I think he wanted to do like young James Bond,
Mhm.
like young Indiana Jones, because he was like very young at the time. He was still like
Mhm.
mid early 20s. So so essentially, I think what happened was he pitched young James Bond, and then that kind of morphed into
Mhm.
Uncharted, where he became essentially young
Mhm.
Nathan Drake and
Yep.
acted as sort of a prequel to the game series, which, but like using elements from the actual game. So it was like kind of like a weird continuity thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was I do remember reading that.
Yeah. I mean, look, Jacob Elordi. What was the big thing that he did recently? Obviously he's been in Euphoria, right? So, I'm trying to remember. He's didn't he just do a biopic? Or I'm thinking of Timothy Chalamet. But Jacob Elordi is certainly coming up. No, he was in he played Elvis in the Priscilla biopic. Yeah, he was in there. He was in Saltburn, very different kind of movie. So he's up and coming. I mean, Jacob Elordi, to me, of those three names, if that's all I had to pick from, is going to be my pick. I think Tom Holland could do it if you're going for a very suave Bond. Again, it depends on the sensibilities, right? Because Denis Villeneuve needs to like be really into the idea of whoever he's casting as like this is going to be the Bond. And not only that, but obviously, the producer Amy Pascal, David Heyman, and potentially even on at this point more of a surface level, the Broccoli's will be able to probably at least consult on the
Right.
idea of who's going to be the next Bond, even if they don't get the final sign off on it. So I don't know if any of these three names stick out to me all that much. But if you scroll down a little bit,
none of them are particularly great. I mean, Tom Holland is just a gigantic fat no.
True, yeah, Elordi is
Please,
Frankenstein.
God, no. Everything to the if Tom Holland's cast, I'm not watching this movie. Like, I'm just like, if that's no, just fuck no. That's just, I don't want baby boy twink Bond like ever.
It's also,
in my
you know what
life.
it is? It's also you can't buy Tom Holland as James Bond because
he's too whiny. He's like,
I just can't, because James Bond has an edge to him. He's also like he's got a
I
he
understand,
flirts with
like,
women,
here's the
and
thing.
he's
Tom Holland is more than just Spider-Man. I get that, but like, I have yet to see a role from him where he has that edge, where he has that suaveness, that charisma. This is
a little bit of an anti-hero at times.
At best, Tom Holland is stunt casting. It's stunt casting. It's just like, this guy's popular. Amy Pascal has, I assume, worked with him because she like has the deal with Marvel,
the Spider-Man franchise,
to do with the Spider-Man franchise. So I assume she's like met with him, worked with him. So she's like, I know this guy. He's British, and it's just like, okay, yeah. Jacob Elordi, I'm sick of him. I'm like, he's barely scratched the surface. He's like the next Timothy Chalamet to me. I'm already fucking sick of him. I don't like Frankenstein. I will watch because I love Guillermo del Toro. I love the rest of that cast, but like, Andrew Garfield to Jacob Elordi is like going from hot fudge sundae to like dog shit covered with sprinkles. It's like, what the fuck? And then Harris Dickinson, I have heard he is good in The King's Man, which is like, like has the action prowess. He has, I mean, Matthew Vaughn has been trying
really
to
bad
make a
story
Bond.
though.
I mean, Matthew Vaughn has been trying to make a Bond movie for the past like decade, like ever since the first Kingsman.
And he wasn't even in the shortlist. I think he gave up on it. He's like, I'm just like gonna do my own thing.
Yeah, it's like, no, I'm gonna handle my own shitty spy franchise with Argyle because sure, why not? But Harris Dickinson, like, I see him and I see that's like the best out of the three. That's not saying much, but like, if I had to, like, gun to my head, I had to pick three. Like, Harris Dickinson, it would be Harris Dickinson, Jacob Elordi, Tom Holland. It's just like, I'm so sick of Jacob Elordi. Like, I just feel like he's like the Timothy Chalamet, Pedro Pascal, or he's just like in so much, and it's just like, at least with Timothy Chalamet and Pedro Pascal, they have the acting prowess. I have not. Jacob Elordi just, I feel like, has the same expression. It's just like that, like fuck boy energy. Like I don't want to see that in everything. Like I don't want to see Frankenstein's monster fuck boy. Like I just. I mean, if we're talking about James Bond prequels, I'm gonna just stick to the game. The game at least looks really good. At least that's understandable in terms of like the really edgy Bond.
Yeah.
Like it makes sense.
Wait,
he's young there. It's
hold
before
on.
everything. But at least the look. What I would say, fuck it, just get the guy from Dexter. He's already gonna be in the game. Just bring him in. It would just be like add the continuity of the game into the thing. Just make that work. I don't know.
I mean, Enterprising is suggesting Harry Styles. I don't think we want Harry Styles as the next Bond.
No,
he does not have. I mean, at least the three guys we're talking about right now have acting chops. I don't think Harry Styles can act his way out of out of a single movie scene, nonetheless a whole franchise. But anyway, Jacob. Okay, well, Jacob Elordi's he's a hot. These are all hot names who are obviously out there and could be good picks. I think Aaron Pierre. I know
you might have mentioned
this before.
He's doing that.
I wouldn't mind him.
I can't see him for Bond either.
I can see it. I just, again, the work. Here's the thing. Kind of like with Tom Holland, we haven't seen Tom Holland do anything like Bond before. We haven't seen Aaron Pierre do anything like Bond before either. So it would be a completely different role. But in the past, obviously, look, I was just watching something about Die Hard and how they went through like 1 million A-listers before they landed on Bruce Willis. And it was a similar situation to like Mr. Mom is Batman with Michael Keaton. And obviously things worked out. So it's very possible maybe this is the challenge that they need to turn their career in a different direction, diversify. So I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility. It just would make it very difficult to imagine based on what most people imagine as Bond and like the prototypical Bond. But then again, we might not be getting a prototypical Bond anyway. So who knows? Can you pick someone manly?
Thank you, Hosea. I don't want to see Twink Bond. Give the man some muscle. Like the whole point of James Bond, he's supposed to be this ultra masculine, like panty dropper fucking dude. Like, I'm sorry, like I understand, like, oh, it's like the newer modern fucking he's not a modern character. That's the whole fucking point of the dude. He is a has-been anti-hero, grungy fucking fuckwad who's like a relic of the Cold War. That's the whole point. Just make it that. There's nothing wrong. If you want to see like this, like progressive, make your own franchise. Do your own thing. Have Tom Holland star in that, and then have that inevitably bomb because the man hasn't been in anything successful outside of Marvel movies. So you know what? Just do that. Save James Bond at least something rather than whatever the fuck this is. God.
I was just gonna say if you
Jose, I feel like is like the only person that gets the character.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go down a little bit further because there's a little bit more.
Pierce Brosnan has more fucking cojones and like masculine than fucking Tom Holland. Tom Holland has in his entire body. Like, just get that perfectly.
I agree with that. I agree with what Josh was saying. But okay, let's keep going down because there's a little more reporting from Deadline that they talk about in the article about perhaps a timeline on when this movie is going to come out, as well as what else we might get to see from the franchise. So Deadline's Justin Kroll reported that one last thing, while Denis will give his input on casting for Bond, he does not have the final say on who's going to get to play 007. As it's been reported, he doesn't have final cut and is only on for one film, so it would be wrong to think his top choice will be the automatic frontrunner to land the role. Yeah, and not only that, but they talk about here, if you scroll further down, they actually offered, apparently they offered the movie to Christopher Nolan, even willing to give him the final cut. He turned it down. Alfonso Cuarón, who's worked with David Heyman on the Harry Potter movies before, was given a similar offer. He chose another. Both of them. Nolan chose to do The Odyssey instead. Cuarón chose to do Jane, which is starring Charlize Theron. Charlize Theron is also in The Odyssey too. But I mean, it's so. Look, Denis Villeneuve is by no means a bad option whatsoever. And certainly playing bridesmaid to Nolan and Cuarón is not at all. You could most directors will take that as a huge compliment. But it's interesting to hear that he was like I guess the third person down the list. Like Josh Brolin turned down Lanterns and eventually ended up with Kyle Chandler, which I mean that's a few more steps down. But anyway, Puck also were talking about how Denis Villeneuve, of course, he's gonna be working right now on Dune Messiah, which comes out in December of 2026. So chances are he doesn't really get working on this next Bond movie until early 2027, or even at the late, earliest maybe late 2026, while he's still promoting Dune Messiah. Like once potentially post-production is done on that film. So John, in general, I just want to get your take on this. I mean, the idea that obviously it looks like, well, he will have his input. Denis Villeneuve, he won't be the one who ultimately signs off on the new Bond. And he was the third pick. At the very least, he was third on the list of directors. And two other names that, I mean, we've talked about Christopher Nolan, his love for the Bond. And when Amazon MGM got creative control, we thought, give it to Nolan. I mean, Jonathan Nolan was another name that was being tossed around, his brother. But then also the timeline of this. I mean, does this mean the earliest we're going to get Bond is like 2029, 2028? Like, what do you think about all this reporting?
So, probably, because I would assume Denis Villeneuve just has too many projects lined up. Like, he's going to Dune Messiah is going to come out next year, and then I don't know when Rendezvous with Rama. That's still like kind of on the last we heard of it, like sometime last year. He said he was writing it. Honestly, John Hamm has the physique. I don't want an American Bond. Like, I just stick with.
I know what you mean by John Hamm has the physique. But anyway, go ahead.
But I think, and plus, I love how they were like. I remember seeing something. They were like, "We want a British Bond to stay true." It's like Jacob Elordi's Australian. Like, you couldn't even keep that straight. And the last time we had an Australian Bond, it was the weakest Bond. So, like, the movie was great, but I'm just saying.
That's true. I mean, okay, but then also, I mean, do you think it's a bad look on Amazon MGM that they've been through Nolan and Cuarón before they ended up on Villeneuve? Like, he was third on the list.
That's I think down. Like sometimes you just don't get your top pick. Like, it makes sense that like someone like Nolan, he's like, I have this thing with Universal, I'm gonna stick with that, and I'm doing the thing I'm interested in. And like maybe if they asked him like 10 years ago, he would have been like, oh, hell yeah. Facts. Well, that's why British Isles, Scottish, Welsh, Irish, British.
It's all the same. Yeah. Well, not all the same, but it's all part of the same country. The larger country, I should say. Anyway, the kingdom.
Southern Ireland has something to say about that. But
they're not Southern Ireland, just Ireland. But anyway. Okay, I see. Exactly. You said British Isles. You did not say Britain. There we go. There's a difference.
I said British Isles specifically. So
to include Ireland. There we go. Yep. But to answer your question, Hosea, Dame Judi Dench is already not M. Her character died
in Skyfall. Then Ray Fiennes became Ray Fiennes. M.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised that they continue on with Ray Fiennes. Judi Dench was around for Brosnan and for Daniel Craig. Well, wasn't the famous thing about like you were a relic from the Cold War? That line was not to Craig's Bond, that was to Brosnan's Bond. Yeah. And so she did like 6 Bond movies, 5 or 6 Bond movies. So it is common. I mean, they could definitely continue on that tradition. So I wouldn't even mind seeing, was it Naomi Scott or who was Moneypenny? Why am I forgetting her name?
Naomi Harris.
Naomi Harris, again, different Naomi. Naomi Harris could also come back. I wouldn't mind seeing some of the supporting characters return, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just want to start fresh. Maybe Ray Fiennes is also potentially, chasing bigger roles at this time. But then again, M is one of those iconic roles that he probably wouldn't turn down.
Idris Elba for M, because since he's in his 50s now, I would say he should do that.
That could work. That could actually work really well. All right, so with that, John, I guess we'll just have to wait and see how all of this turns out. These early details, they're interesting, they're intriguing, a little disappointing in some ways, but also, they certainly spark the curiosity, because we have obviously been talking about it for like the last 20 minutes.
Guys, Mr. M, I swear I'm James Bond.
What I do want to say though, or ask you guys, let us know in the comments down below. Would you like for us to actually do a whole fan casting? Because I know we looked at the names that they're reporting are on the short list.
And they all
We don't
suck.
seem to agree on any of them. Do you guys want us to come up with a short list that might be better than what they came up with? Because I know, John, you will have some really, really good picks. I've got a few names in mind. So I'm sure that would be a fun fan casting to do. And you guys can obviously chime in on it too. So let us know in the comments what you think about it. And if you'd like for us to do a fan casting. So with that though, John, now we're going to switch focus. We're going from Bond to Fantastic Four. Let's talk about that, shall we? Because we do have some new stuff from the Fantastic Four First Steps. Obviously, the movie comes out a couple of weeks after Superman, so it's now less than a month away, less than 3 weeks away, in fact, because we're basically in July. It's July 1st, everybody, based on when we're doing the show live. Or, even if you're watching after the fact, it's July. The Baxter Building, we got a picture of the Baxter Building, John. We could talk about that for a second, because obviously in the world of the mainline MCU, we have the Avengers Tower. There's no Baxter Building. But when you get to the Fantastic Four and their reality, we definitely see the Baxter Building. There's no Avengers Towers in their Avengers Tower in their reality. There's no Oscorp. Right. So, I mean, if you wanna, do you have the image for the Baxter Building?
I do. I'm just, prepping stuff.
But I also wanted to. So while John does that, I wanted to kind of mention that there is some speculation going on. The big thing. The Baxter Building image is great, but the big thing that we want to get into, and we'll get into all of it, they put out like a description of the movie, and then I think it went out with one of the trailers. Then more recently, they did the same thing, like a synopsis, and then in the synopsis they'll tell you what the movie's about. Then below that, they will tell you actor A, actor B, actor C, and actor G as part of the movie. See it in theaters on date XYZ. In that description, they previously had John Malkovich, and now they don't. So there's speculation they might have cut his character out in post-production because he already had a pretty small role.
Honestly,
so
hilarious, and we will get into that. I'll talk about that later. But look at this.
Look at the glory of the Baxter Building, though. That's the first thing I want to get into. Home of the Future Foundation and the Fantastic Four. The initial proposal for the headquarters included this rendering of the Baxter Building Plaza, foreseeing a place where charities and world leaders could come together to uplift humanity. Sort of like the UN building times, the Avengers Tower in a way. John, what do you think about the design? I don't know I don't believe you've seen as much of it in the trailer so far. We've seen it closer up even, but not necessarily like in all its glory. Do you like this design? Do you like the fact that this is sort of the equivalent to the Avengers Tower in their world? And also, obviously, when they come over to the mainline MCU, I mean, I'm sure they're going to miss the fact that they're not the center of the planet's harrowing adventures, or I don't know, like superhero adventures. They're going to be like 4 of 2,000 different superheroes, including all the mutants that we're going to get. But at least that's where they start. So before I guess they'll get humbled. But what do you think about the design of the building and how it's going to be?
Yeah, it looks good.
A big role in the movie.
Fits with what we've seen from their world. So yeah.
The Watcher he's got a scoop on the Brave and the Bold. So wait for the quick hits. We'll get into that. It looks a little bit like a hotel resort, but then again, it's also kind of looks like the Avengers Tower.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of an old like tower, because like the hole kind of looks like a disk drive where you stick like a floppy disk in.
That's actually or more of a tape cassette, given how wide the gate is there. Or how high, I don't know, how depth, girth, whatever. Now that's getting weird. But Angelica's in the chat saying, I don't know why Marvel is not starting to market the movie. Well, here's the thing. Marvel is. They are marketing the movie. They're just not doing it nearly as much as Superman. I feel like they're marketing this Fantastic Four movie as pretty much every other Marvel movie. And if for some reason they just haven't been able to make this Fantastic Four movie feel like an event film, like DC and DC Studios and Warner Brothers marketing has done for Superman. James Gunn obviously has a big part to play in that. So I don't know. It's kind of weird because when you compare the two, I think they started off in similar places, but clearly Superman has raced way, way ahead. So, okay, we get it, Watcher. We will trust us. We will bring that in when you drop it in the chat. We'll talk about it. I don't know if Marvel knows they're cooked though, Because the trailers are pretty. Look, we talked about the spot that they released on Friday. That was like the best trailer they've put out to date, even though it wasn't a full trailer. Because we got more fun out of it than we have seen so far. So it would be nice to see that. But speaking of fun, John Malkovich, after years of declining multiple, pitches to be a part of superhero movies, including Kevin Feige trying to get him into the MCU on several occasions in the past, he finally said yes. And I mean, according to his comments, before it was always about money. He was like, I'm going to keep it simple with you guys. Like, they just didn't pay. They weren't willing to pay me enough money to go and, do all this makeup and act in front of a green screen and do all these things that are not natural to the acting process. And now he's finally said yes. And he was in the early trailers for the Fantastic Four. But when the final trailer came out, we didn't see him at all in there. You would imagine that we might have gotten more of a look at him. He's also been missing from a lot of the TV spots. So now, John, now that we get to the point where the marketing is getting into this final run, speculation is mounting, as they say in this article, that his character might have been cut from the movie entirely in the latter stages of editing.
Which is just absolutely fucking hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Considering like this dude put off superheroes for so damn long.
The irony of that.
He finally said yes. He got the money he wanted. And they're like, okay, snip. And it's just like, oh, you didn't want to join the MCU beforehand? Well, suck a dick, John. Bye. Enjoy the cutting room floor. So hello, Ron. I just think that's
Ron?
Hilarious and just karma. Like, don't get me wrong, John Malkovich, he's a great actor and all that, but like, it's just like, it's like, all right, you're Marlon Brandoing us. All right, bye. Have fun. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, and you know what? Fair enough. He did get paid, so it's not like he's probably doesn't have a back end deal for a cameo-esque role.
He doesn't care, but it's just like, I'm just thinking that's funny as hell. If this is true that he did get cut out. So
yeah, and the reason why the speculation has been running wild is if you scroll down in the article, John, we can go over the two different synopses. So as you can see here, Disney sent out these press releases to the press with the cast list. And now if you hold it there for a second, John, previously it mentioned that
on the Fantastic Four First Steps.
The action adventure. This is usually like the second or third paragraph. Like you will see like what the main story is about, starring the main characters. Then they will say, "Oh, the adventure also stars Paul Walter Hauser, Natasha Lyonne, and Sarah Niles." Now, as you can see there, the name that's missing from it is John Malkovich, because actually I should have said this is the current version. The latest version is the one in the big text, has Paul Walter Hauser, Natasha Lyonne, and Sarah Niles. Then the smaller one below it is what was previously being advertised. Pretty much the exact same thing, word for word, plus the name John Malkovich. They said Paul Walter Hauser, John Malkovich, Natasha Lyonne, and Sarah Niles, as opposed to now it's saying Paul Walter Hauser, Natasha Lyonne, and Sarah Niles. Where is John Malkovich? It's highly unlikely that they would mistakenly leave his name out. He's not like, he's freaking John Malkovich. I don't think this is a mistake, because some people are thinking maybe this was just a mistake. Maybe they're just not highlighting it. It's one of those things where
doesn't make mistakes anymore. Unless you talk about their movies, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, this is not the kind of thing that would just be for oversight, or they just felt like they didn't want to include it, because from a marketing standpoint, John Malkovich is the most recognizable name of those four. Paul Walter Hauser, sure, some people heard of him. Natasha Lyonne, okay, if you've seen her show, you know a couple of the things she's done. Sarah Niles is the least recognizable name already. Matt Shackman, even, unless you're a big Marvel fan, you're like, what has he done? Because like, if you didn't see WandaVision, then you're like, oh, I don't know who that is either. Kevin Feige obviously is a good big name. A lot of people have seen Louis D'Esposito's name in Marvel credits for years and years. Grant Curtis, Tim Lewis, less so. But John Malkovich is the most recognizable name in there. So for him to go missing can't be a mistake. So do you think it's true, John? Did they cut him out? Like, is this literally what happened?
It seems like that's the case.
What else could be the case? I'm like, what else could have caused that to be the change? Like, I don't understand that. Like, there's no other reason.
I honestly don't even know, considering, like, maybe it's just like an even smaller role, or maybe they didn't want to spoil it as much. But I can't see anything other than they cut him. I can't see it. Like I can't see anything else other than they just cut the guy. So
The doorway to his mind. Wow, Caleb. Okay. Um, if you scroll down a little bit, is there a poster down there in this article? I think. Oh no, this is just
it's just
Herbie
like
goes to the movies.
It's just like a TV spot of
Oh,
like
that's nice. I do like these though. Especially, I want to see if I can get myself that because there's a Herbie popcorn bucket which actually also holds your drink and snacks.
look at
Which
that
sounds
popcorn bucket. The Galactus
very
one.
very purple compared to what we're seeing in the movie so far. That Galactus, the purple is much more muted. This doesn't look. This is clearly animated, right? This isn't real. It'd be nice if
I don't know. I mean, it's probably CGI.
Yeah. Great question, Tanu John. We're actually going to get into Superman in a little bit. We are saving your question for later, but thank you for dropping in the chat, man. Hope you are here and enjoying the show and hit the like button and subscribe. But John, we do have a new poster, the IMAX poster for the Fantastic Four. Similar to some of the recent posters we have seen, like when they did the final trailer, we got a new poster. And if you click through that, the IMAX poster looks nice. This is very dynamic. I personally like it because it
looks like an Empire magazine cover.
It does, but also this is like one of the few posters where you get to see Mr. Fantastic in action with like an outstretched arm. We haven't really seen that before. And I like the thing being at the front of the poster, too, front and center, the Baxter building in the background. Herbie kind of poking in his head into Silver Surfer. The only thing missing here is Galactus.
I mean, you have the Silver Surfer in the corner.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, but like Galactus as a character is missing.
It would be cool if it was like he's like in the clouds and you just kind of see a faded version of his face. That would have been cool. But
they did do that in that previous poster we talked about, that drop with the final trailer, I think. So
I will say yes, Josh. Here's the thing. There he is. Here's the thing.
Okay.
You guys can also watch The Bear season 4 on Hulu now, which according to my parents is very terrible.
Some people were saying that some of the people I talked to, they were saying that Evan Moss Bacharach's character actually is the standout part of an otherwise very listless seasons. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm glad that Jeremy Allen White and Evan Moss Bacharach are going on to bigger and better projects, because The Bear, if it was after that, they would have been stunking and not getting anything. But they got it when The Bear was at its height. So
yep.
And
definitely had the quickest fight. Dude, season 3 wasn't good. Season 4 isn't good. All right, well, that's all the Fantastic Four news that we've got for you guys for today. We will keep an eye out. Obviously, the marketing campaign will keep picking up, and we will talk about it in the upcoming days, weeks, and probably for months to come, depending on how closely it ties into the events of Doomsday, which at least on first glance, or what Kevin Feige keeps teasing, the Fantastic Four first steps lead us directly into Avengers Doomsday, which we do have something about that in the quickets to come up. So let us know in the comments down below what you think about that. What did you think about the new poster? Do you think John Malkovich actually got cut out of the movie after years of declining to be in a superhero film? He finally said yes, and he will go to the premiere and his character won't be in there. So anyway, let us know in the comments what you think about it. Let's move on to the next thing, John. What we're talking about now is, well, what happened, what went wrong with Elio, because everybody was saying, it's an original Pixar movie. It's not a sequel. That's why it didn't do as well, because nobody knew what it was about. But I mean, Inside Out was great. And then to the point where they made a sequel, Pixar is not a stranger to making good to amazing original movies that then become their own franchises. The Incredibles being one of them. We've got a third Incredible movies in the work right now. So on the other end, Elio debuted at the domestic box office to the lowest opening weekend of any Pixar movie ever, lower than 1995's Toy Story, the very first movie Pixar ever put out. And now things haven't been getting any better, but we have some word from the folks over at Pixar who worked on the movie, who I don't know if this was a leak or if somebody anonymously gave all this information to reporters, but ultimately it seems like what happened is that Elio went through a lot of creative changes that sort of stripped away, perhaps what would have been some core parts of its identity. And the creators of the movie, the people who worked on the film at Pixar, who were anonymously quoted here, they seem to believe that sort of stripping away a lot of what they originally wanted in the movie was a big part of why Elio is just a movie that's about a whole lot of nothing. And that's why it doesn't have the heart and the soul that we are expecting from most Pixar movies. So let's dive into this, John. I want to get your opinion on this because I know you went through this in detail. So as the headline says there, catastrophic path, America Ferrera's exit, the director change, and erasure of queer themes were three of several things that potentially went wrong with this movie. I don't know if you have the Facebook link up because I think they sort of summarize stuff. But
by the way,
go ahead.
So the Hollywood Reporter, they did this official article. They did this whole thing. You can read this, all of
very
this,
much detail.
The all of it. But Facebook, this Facebook link I have gave some bullet points you can see on the side here. Apparently, according to the article that we just showed, that Pixar massively changed Elio after the original cut was test screened, and not a single person raised their hand when asked if they'd pay to see the film in a movie theater. A Pixar staffer says the Elio that is in theaters right now is far worse than Adrian's, the original director's best version of the original. Suddenly, you remove this big key piece, which is all about identity, and Elio just becomes about totally nothing. The budget was well north of 200 million, while other reports suggest it was only 150 million. But with the reshoots, they could have been much larger than that now. Apparently, Elio was more queer coded and a reflection of Adrian Molina and his upbringing, but this was eventually cut out entirely along the scenes with scenes like photos in Elio's room involving a male crush. Pixar employees say that the studio executives themselves cut queer elements from Elio, and the decision did not come from Disney. A lot of people like to blame Disney, and we still do because they're assholes. But the call is coming from inside the house. A lot of it is obeying in advance behavior coming from the higher execs, specifically at Pixar. Former Pixar assistant editor Sarah Ligatic, who provided feedback during Elio production as a member of the company's internal LGBTQ queer group. Pix Pride said that a number of creatives working on the film stepped down after the directors shared their first cut of the revised movie. The exodus of talent after that cut was really indicative of how unhappy a lot of people were that they had changed and destroyed this beautiful work. And as they said, it's a lot to unpack, it's a lot to say, but it can add a lot to the idea of what happened with this movie, why it didn't become what this was, and it's kind of a shame. Yeah, exactly. Who don't even like get this stuff anymore. They just like either pirate it or just like hate watch, but like they don't like actually like get this stuff. So yeah, I can see why. Also, hello, Monique. I can see why. I don't like want either extreme. I don't want like the most like regimented, like conservative crap, but I also don't want like gay porn on screen. Like obviously, we don't want either
Look,
extreme.
here's the
But
thing, though.
and shoving it down our throats. We don't want that. Like this is the entire thing of the movie. But as long as it's nuanced and written well and it's subtle, then it can work. And the way that it sounds here, that it was that, but then similar to Win or Lose, how there was a trans storyline and they cut that out entirely. It seems like with the new administration that Bob Iger is kowtowing to that. They're just bending their knee because they don't want to seem like the thing that the administration hates. So they're like, okay, we're just going to cut out all of this stuff. We're going to just like not do any of it and then just have like this hackneyed mess of a generic film. And it's kind of a shame.
It is unfortunate. I don't know if you can pull up the Hollywood Reporter article again. Here's the thing. I don't think we're getting anywhere close to gay porn in this. Like, this is a Pixar movie. I don't.
I'm being hyperbolic.
You're being
I'm just talking
hyperbolic.
about in
I
general,
understand that.
you know.
And you know what? Politics. Yeah, here's the thing. I don't think politics was the goal here either. Originally, this movie probably had other themes, but they were likely not like overtly making the movie all about that. It would have been just more part of the movie. I feel like you said here, John, that Disney's senior leadership are just really, giving into like, hey, we don't want to become the next Paramount and, want to have to give, settle for millions of dollars with the administration because we did something slightly, out of the realm of what the current, presidential administration considers good or proper or whatever. It is a little disgusting that these are the reasons why. But obviously, as this article points out, there's multiple reasons why, if we've kind of gone to this point, because obviously changing up the story, taking out the queer themes, which is a significant part of the movie, that's not going to help. The director change is never going to help any movie. We have seen that with like Zack Snyder leaving and Joss Whedon coming in with the Justice League movie. And that's not even the only example. There's many a times we have seen that, play out in Hollywood over the years. America Ferrera's exit, which I imagine was probably over some of those themes being taken out of the movie. LGBTQ forward movies are reflective of the world that we live in today. So I would have loved to see a Pixar movie sort of embrace that. And like you said, John, this is not the first time. There was that Pixar TV show where they did the same thing, and then there was a lot of like public outcry. Clearly, a lot of people who work for Disney, who work for Pixar, don't feel the same way about this situation as did the senior leadership. So unfortunately, it seems like all of those, elements kind of added up to what looks like death by 1,000 cuts for Elio. And hopefully my only thing at this point is like being the optimist that I usually am. I hope that once this movie hits Disney Plus, it's able to become a huge phenomenon like Turning Red did and some of the other movies that didn't do so well from Pixar at the box office, then went on to be really big hits with kids and families once they got onto streaming, where Disney Plus is like the second most subscribed to streaming service outside of Netflix in the world. So it's a huge subscriber base that's going to get a chance to see it, a lot of whom most likely didn't go to see it in the box office, which is why it's not making any money. So hopefully that will be, the redemption path for this movie. But guys, let us know in the comments down below. What do you think about all the different things that, potentially led to the demise of Elio at the box office, just really crashing and burning in a way that you don't expect Pixar movies to do. Even the ones that are less popular usually do a whole lot better than Elio did. What do you think is the reason why? Was it just not a good movie? And if it wasn't a good movie, in your opinion, was it because of all the things that were changed about it during development, or do you think that was just part of the normal process that happens to a lot of projects, and that's not what helped bring it down ultimately? Or is there a different reason that we didn't talk about? Let us know in the comments down below what you think about it. Right now, we're going to move on to the next thing, which of course we do have a couple of trailers, or maybe more trailer and a half, well, John.
Yeah, trailer and a half.
Trailer and a half
at the top of the show.
Yeah. Well, it's fair, Monique, but like every movie that they spent $150 million making Elio. So,
and allegedly, according to this, it might have been north of 200. So
yeah, so it doesn't matter that, yes, on some level, Lilo and Stitch is going to make some of that money back for them because ultimately it's the same company. But I mean, from even a business standpoint, Lilo and Stitch is Walt Disney Animation and Elio is Pixar, and they're two different units. So different people reporting different numbers for their respective part of the greater Walt Disney company. So look, we're gonna have to just wait and see if Elio is able to recover. It is unfortunate that things turned out the way that they did.
I think Bob Chapek maybe greenlit it, but I feel like this was
even
also,
yes,
like
since Bob Iger has been back,
but Bob Iger has also been just as bad with the whole political thing. But it does say in the article, you can go read it. It's the Hollywood Reporter, and they said the call has come from within the house, so. The call has come from inside the house specifically, that it's really Pixar execs. Now, it's possible that they're getting some sort of streamline from Bob Iger himself, maybe, but I think it was mainly just Pixar being Pixar, you know?
Well, I don't know if it's Pixar being Pixar in the sense, but I mean, yeah, this is the post John Lasseter Pixar, so things are a little bit different than they
Which
used to be.
sucks.
So, all right, you know what doesn't suck though, John, is the new trailer for Project Hail Mary. The new Ryan Gosling movie that they let off with over the Amazon MGM presentation at CinemaCon a few months ago. We finally have the trailer for this. We talked about it on Friday that they released a poster. They said the trailer comes out on Monday, and it did. And of course, we see Ryan Gosling blasting off into space to save Earth in a way that feels very The Martian-esque with Matt Damon. I mean, but you also clearly see the DNA of a Phil Lord and Christopher Miller movie. Of course, these guys haven't directed a movie in quite some time. They've been producing the Spider-Verse movies for the last several years, including the new one that whenever that comes out. But John, you saw the trailer.
Yes.
I want to get your reaction because for me, it was fantastic. In one word, I'll get into it in more detail.
I'm not gonna lie, Dan, you scared me there because you're like, oh, I'm like, oh God, did you hate it? I'm like, fuck, because I'm like,
no. I sorry, I wasn't trying to throw you off on purpose, but what did you think about the trailer?
I thought it was amazing. It looks fantastic. I know a lot of people are upset with the quote unquote twist that was like a big twist in the book because it's based on a book. It's based on Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian, and he wrote Project Hail Mary, the book Hail Mary, and Drew Goddard, who adapted The Martian for Ridley Scott, is now also adapting Project Hail Mary for Phil Lord and Chris Miller. So Drew Goddard, he hit it out of the park once with The Martian. Now he's hitting it out of the park again with your boy Ryan Gosling as not an astronaut, as he says many times throughout the movie. So I know that a ton of people, like all of the comment, you can go to the YouTube video, anyone, but you can go to the YouTube video where you can see like the amount of people that are just like, I read the book. This is one of the best fucking books I've ever read in my life. I couldn't put it down. I can't wait for this movie. It looks so good. Everyone needs to read this book. It's amazing. Da 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 da. All that stuff. So yeah, I think this looks like a ton of fun, but I mean, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, this is like not their territory. The closest they got for a sci-fi action film was Solo, and look how that turned out. So this is like they're like, all right, fine, Disney, you're not going to let us do what we want to do. Well, fine, we're going to do this instead, and we're going to do Andy Weir, who's one of the best sci-fi writers like working today.
Maybe get him for Doctor Who if Russell T Davies gets booted. Just saying.
But I think this just looks fantastic. And the thing is, this just goes to show how confident they are in this movie, because this doesn't come out till next March, which isn't a year away, but it's close to a year away.
9 months. You can get pregnant right now and have the baby by the time this movie comes out.
If somebody's having fun in the bedroom right now, they can have that baby just in time for Project Hail Mary. And you got Sandra Hüller, who was in the Oscar nominated or winning Anatomy of a Fall. Well, definitely the Oscar winning Zone of Interest. But she is in this as well. And speaking of the bear, you actually have the guy, I don't know the actor. The guy who
a little Mickey 17. Chef. I do see that, yeah.
Yes, a little bit. But the guy who plays the dessert, the pastry chef, I forget his name. I don't know the actor's name, but he's also in this as well.
Wait, where did he play the pastry chef?
The guy in the bear. We were just talking about the bear.
Oh, right. Okay,
I know. He's like her, like kind of like bodyguard kind of.
You're right. Yep.
So yeah, so those are the three. Those are the only actors I know of. But yeah, this. I don't. Well, I mean, Solo could have been, but again, they were dropped from that because they went over budget and were doing too much improv. So but this looks, you know what? Knock off Interstellar. I'll take it. Like,
that's still a compliment.
Very good movie.
It's still a compliment. Yeah.
So like, if knock off Nolan, fuck it, I'll take it. But it does have more of a dry wit and a comedy essence to it. So it kind of feels like Interstellar, but at the same time, it also feels very much like The Martian. Like, I feel like Andy Weir gets that like sci-fi, like comedy, like kind of like dryness to it. Because The Martian was like, it wasn't a comedy, but it was like it kind of had a lot of funny moments. Like,
Yeah.
I swear to God, if I have to hear another second of more god awful disco music, which is me, by the way, anytime my mom plays ABBA in the
Yeah.
car.
Mhm.
So like I get it, and that it was just like, and my mom was like nudging me. I'm like, yeah, that's what you do to me with your fucking god awful disco music. Anyway,
I like the design of the
Captain and Timmy and
spaceship.
all that shit. But yeah,
This is more
spaceship looks great.
realistic than most ships that we see in sci-fi movies, right? Like even
Yeah.
more realistic in a lot of ways.
And it doesn't
than
look
what we
like a dick,
got in The Martian.
unlike Bezos's ship. So there's that too.
Yeah,
It looks
that's
like
true.
almost like a, you know what it kind of looks like? It kind of looks like a claw. Like it looks like
Yeah, a little bit.
like a a
Yep.
claw of some sort. So yeah, that looks good. And then like you have a lot of shots towards the end that are
Yeah.
very much like, you know, it has like 2001, like a little bit of Life
It does say
Force
that.
as well. Yeah, exactly. So it's written by Drew Goddard, who adapted The Martian from Andy Weir. So Andy Weir wrote The Martian, Drew Goddard adapted it. Andy Weir also wrote Project Hail Mary. Drew Goddard is adapting it for this, but it's just different directors. Martian had Ridley Scott. This has Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who did the Jump Street movies and the Lego movie. So it still like has like their like bit of comedy in there, but it's like it seems like more out there. It's been a long time since they directed something too, because they've been producing a lot of stuff.
Like I said, yeah, exactly. The Spider-Verse movies and like they've worked on other projects. They just haven't stepped in the director's chair since like the first Spider-Verse movie. But I mean, look, I love Ryan Gosling. I love Knuff. Cannot get enough of Knuff. Always. So I loved him in Barbie. I think he is finally coming into his own, not just playing a beta male in every movie. He's starting to play different characters. I mean, although his character so far in this movie feels like the definition of that in a way. But anyway, the reluctant hero archetype. But I do like Ryan Gosling a lot. I think Drive was one of his most underrated movies. Obviously, Barbie is the one he's really known for these days. Blade Runner 2049 that nobody went to see. Speaking of Denis Villeneuve earlier about Bond, I mean, that's one that I think he did a great job in as well, Ryan Gosling. So I just like how, you know, going from a Ridley Scott directed Martian, the comparisons are there. The premise is also pretty fantastic because ultimately, yeah, I mean, Caleb, I agree with you. This movie looks fantastic. You look at the premise, it's something you probably have heard of and seen a movie about it before where, okay, so they say basically in the movie, at least again, I'm only going off the trailer. I'm not spoiling anything for you. Obviously, the book is out there if you choose to read it or listen to it on Audible. But in this movie, stars start dying, and not only our sun, but like other stars around us in the Milky Way galaxy. And they say like there's something that has poisoned them almost, and
Like a
essentially
virus.
like a virus, yeah, something to that effect. And so their goal here is that I guess Ryan Gosling's character is a
There
biologist
he
of
is.
some
That's
kind.
the guy I was talking about. Yeah.
Oh
There he
yeah,
is.
no,
That's
exactly. Yes, that's him.
If the guy who plays the pastry chef and the bear, please
Mhm.
tell us the actor's name or the character's name, because I'm totally blanking on this dude's name. So sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, he is helping out Drew Goddard. He was the one like outside with like fucking Tom King and Christina Hodson.
They
and
went on
Crystal
that like
Henry.
retreat. with
Hey,
James
you
Gunn.
had Drew Goddard and Jeremy's. You had
Yep.
the guy who did Doom Patrol, Jeremy something or other.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Slater.
it just
Slater.
yes.
Yeah.
But good stuff.
No, absolutely he did. Drew Goddard is a part of the brain trust over at DC Studios. But yeah, I mean, as far as this movie goes, so something is poisoning all these stars. And so they send basically a biologist or astrobiologist who is basically a high school teacher in Ryan Gosling. And he's like, dude, I'm not the right guy for this job. And you do get to see some of Ryan Gosling's, you know, iconic comedic timing, like even in some of the physical comedy of this. You know, he's having a hell of a time with this. And then towards the end of the trailer, the shots start to feel like
Jeremy Carver. Jeremy
Carver. Oh, okay.
Not bad.
I was gonna say though, towards the end of this trailer, the shots start to feel like you're watching that sequence in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, a little bit.
Where he's going through like the black the wormhole. It feels like that a little bit. I'm sure there was some inspiration there. But then ultimately, when he happens upon the spaceship, I feel like I've seen that design almost looks like the spaceship from the first Guardians movie.
A little bit.
Remember? Like what was the name of the Lee Pace character that he played? The one with the "You want to dance off, bro"? Like I forgot what the name was. Anyway,
I think
who?
Ronan,
yes, Ronan the Conqueror. But I like the design of the ships. You see both of the big ships, the human one and the alien one. The big thing that I liked about this trailer is they immediately sort of addressed the elephant in the room, which is the whole we get to see the alien, they get to meet the alien. Is it going to be like Arrival, you know? And then no, we kind of skip a step ahead and we're like, they touch hands, but then Ryan Gosling is like, well, I talked to an alien and I kind of like him. He's growing on me, you know, like not growing inside me. You know, that could have been an option, like directly addressing the whole Alien franchise, or Alien, right? Not Predator. I'm not confusing the two, but anyway.
I don't know.
They do cross over, obviously, but I do appreciate, again, this movie it feels like most of what it's given us so far is from the first act, or maybe a little bit from the second act of the movie. It's got this like ET-esque quality to the last 30 seconds of the trailer, especially if you have read the book. The alien character they introduce is sort of very much like ET. So Ronan the Accuser. Okay, thank you. Not the Conqueror. Accuser. Never mind. That's a dumb name. Anyway, sort of.
He doesn't conquer shit, but
he doesn't. True. He accused. Yeah, and then the Guardians defeat him because they are Groot. But yeah, I love this trailer because it's got a lot of those like pop culture touch points. This looks like a scene from Arrival. I've already talked about like connections to E.T., Interstellar, The Martian. There's like 7 iconic sci-fi movies that this seems, it has like alien reference. And it has that sense of humor, the timing. I mean, and Ryan Gosling, I think, is perfectly placed in this movie for that. Even more so than Matt Damon, I think Ryan Gosling has that, this dry comedic timing to him. I really love this trailer. I couldn't be more happier that, this movie is, this book is being adapted. And I mean, dude, this thing was almost 3 minutes long. This was no lightweight trailer.
Again, it shows that they have confidence in this.
Yeah. I mean, they're thinking this movie will compete for best movie, like best film at the Oscars, which I don't know, because like the Odyssey is going to be in that conversation shortly. Jordan, we will talk about that later. Did he address it directly? I know we've talked about how he mentioned that Bradley Cooper is in the movie. Superman, that is. I don't know if he said that he's specifically playing Jor-El yet, but we did discuss that on Friday. I was under the impression that he did, but anyway. John, let's keep going here, because we do have one other thing. If you want to go back, let me see if I can switch over to what you were showing. There's a new poster. Did you find that other poster? They did release another new poster.
No, I didn't. Oh, yeah, here it is. Got it. I got it.
Yeah.
There it is. Ooh. Very nice. We have
love the look of this poster.
Yeah, it's like, it's got it's a little bit wordy, but like I don't think they need to have like from the New York, it's a little bit too much. But outside of that, I mean, considering this is like a teaser poster, it looks good. And plus you can kind of see somebody in the background. I don't know if that's the alien or somebody else, but it's looking good. Yeah, the Odyssey is going to be great. We're gonna have Holland Oppenheimer, Holland Barbenheimer with Spider-Man and the Odyssey,
or Project Odyssey. That
well, I mean, this is March, Odyssey is July, so
yeah, they're not gonna come out the same weekend or anything like that. There are no giant spiders as far as I can tell. No guarantees, Jose. We haven't seen the movie yet, so moving right along, as Enterprising is telling us to. But before we do, let us know what you thought about the Project Hail Mary trailer. Of course, Ryan Gosling looking Knuff as always, and the trailer looking Knuff as well, if I must say. But we did get a trailer and a half today. So, like I mentioned, the other one we want to address is the half in the trailer and the half, which is basically a teaser to a trailer for The Running Man. On Tuesday, tomorrow, or if you're watching this on the Tuesday, today, when we do this show later on, we'll be reacting to the full trailer for The Running Man, of course, starring Glenn Powell in the reboot of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. We just see.
Well, it's not really a reboot of the Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's more of just like an actual adaptation of the book.
I see. Oh, that's fair.
The original movie. Don't get me wrong. I love the original movie. The original movie is pure, unadulterated 80s awesomeness, but it's nothing like the book, like at all. It's just like they essentially took the name, took the idea of a guy running for his life, and then we're just like, let's make like the most 80s thing ever. And it was great, but it's nothing like the book at all. So yeah, I'm stoked for this. I think Edgar Wright, I think he's trying to flex his wings a little bit, trying to get out of the more comedy driven stuff. I didn't care for Last Night in Soho, but I think this will be much better. I like Lynn Powell. I think this is gonna be great, but we only got as I showed before, we only got like 9 seconds. So it's like, all right, cool. But like,
there's not much there. It's really not much there, but I mean, Glenn Powell just says trailer drops tomorrow, and I guess we'll just wait.
And that's it.
Yeah, there's an explosion, which doesn't even look like it's from the movie. It's probably just like a behind the scenes shot of the stunt being filmed, or the special effects. Oh, good. Okay, it'd be fun to do a final reason Superman can succeed and might not. I did see that actually from John Campea. Yeah, I did watch that. That's a good idea. We'll save that one. Maybe we can do that. Have it maybe even before Friday. We can have that conversation. I think there's multiple different things we can do that are more debate topics around Superman, because there's all kinds of concerns people have about it too. Yes, George, we will keep on going. So, what did you guys think about the trailer and a half, as it were, for The Running Man and for Project Hail Mary? They gave us a meaty trailer for a movie that comes out 9 months from now. The Running Man, of course, coming out a lot sooner than that, but we got the trailer for. Well, we're getting the full trailer for The Running Man, and we're talking about it on tomorrow's episode. But Project Hail Mary looks really good. Could be a movie of the year candidate potentially, maybe even an Oscar contender. Let us know in the comments down below.
A man can dream.
A man can dream, indeed. With that, let's keep on dreaming, because now it's time for the quick hits, everybody. We do have a bunch of Superman news in the quick hits. We do have some Marvel news. We have some Star Wars news, I should say. So let me see if I can find the Bossa Nova elevator music. There it is, John. Let's dive into the rumor that Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2 is now in development at Lucasfilm following fan demand. This is interesting, John, because the source for this, if I can find it, is Daniel Rickman. He says the second season of Obi-Wan Kenobi is in development at Lucasfilm. No other details were provided.
Star Wars.
Do you think this is a good idea?
I don't care.
Or a bad
one? I don't care. I don't care about Star Wars. I don't care that this is coming back, especially with how they butchered the original vision for the movie. I don't care.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
Ron is saying that's unnecessary.
For all the people
what
that
can
like
you tell from
Kenobi, I hope you're happy, but I don't care. Anyway, let's move on. Oh, hey, look, something else I don't care about.
All right, I do want to get into this one. This is kind of interesting. Yeah, it would be hard to top Arnold for Running Man, but hey, you know what? Like John said, they're adapting the book this time. So I will say that Daniel RP, he's not a fake scooper, but he doesn't always get things right. So let's dive into this though, because this next thing here looks interesting. We've got some, I believe we have some set photos to get into. We're talking about Simu Liu hanging out with James Marsden, and is that a stunt crew? Who else is in this picture that I can't remember?
I know. I think it might be like a exercise, like personal trainer kind of thing, like the body mechanic. I don't know who that is.
Okay. But the tease here basically is that are we gonna see Simu Liu's Shang-Chi cross paths with James Marsden's Cyclops? What do you think, John? Because we also get we also have
stuff. They already removed stuff. Apparently, Captain Marvel's spaceship in Avengers Doomsday.
Nope, I actually have it right here.
Oh,
it worked for me. There you go.
Okay, good.
So we do have Captain Marvel's spaceship. This is just a sketch, so I don't know what this. Yeah. Obviously, this is not news in the sense that we have seen Captain Marvel's ship before, but I mean the crossover between Simu Liu and James Marsden would be interesting. I always felt that his Cyclops kind of got
Also, the
done
guy
dirty
on the left looks
in the
like a
X-Men
discount
movies.
Anthony Ramos.
That's we'll talk about Anthony Ramos tomorrow. We have a lot of Ironheart stuff that I kind of saving for tomorrow's show. We move on to the next thing. John, I don't know if you got to see there was a new still from Predator Badlands, and it looks at Dan Trachtenberg's new movie that shows us the heroic Yautja. Is that how you pronounce that? The Yautja, the lead. What did you think about this?
Looking awesome. I can't wait for this. Like Killer of Killers was great. This also is looking great, showcasing the alienness of it, because the Wayland Yutani robot played by Elle Fanning. So all right.
I don't know, but it's a DCU Daily After Dark, so
all right.
But Badlands is hype.
Badlands is hype. The Watcher, yes. Normal one here.
Yep.
Badlands is hype.
The Watcher already looking forward to season 2 for Obi-Wan, which, you know what, I will give it a try if it does happen.
So Badlands is not a TV show, it's a movie, but if you talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi, that's going to be a season 2. So yeah.
Do you think this is a secret AVP movie?
No, I don't think so.
No? Okay.
I mean,
okay.
The way they build it up in the trailer, it's like, oh, this is like nobody has ever defeated this. Meanwhile, if you watch the original Alien versus Predator, Predators were fucking murking Xenomorphs like it was nothing. So, like, yeah, it's so yeah, I don't think
yeah.
But yeah, this looks great.
It does look great. Let's keep on going, shall we?
Let's keep this going. So Hollywood Reporter seems to believe that there is not a writer for the DCU, The Brave and the Bold, even though James Gunn has said multiple times that there is. With a notable trade reporting, makes me believe one of two things. Reeves' Batman might still be in play to join the DCU. I don't think so. I find this very unlikely at this point, but Gunn hasn't outright said no to Reeves' Batman when asked. James Gunn is the writer. Okay, sorry, I won't.
Basically, what they're saying here is that if you click on the Hollywood Reporter graphic there, this is the newsletter, the email newsletter. So sometimes the Hollywood Reporter, they won't write an article, they'll just have this news. So you have to subscribe to their email list, and you'll just get the stuff as part of the newsletter. And it's not necessarily a standalone article. So the Hollywood Reporter knows what they're talking about. They've got the connections, they've got the pedigree. They're saying, I mean, again, this is speculation on their part, which is a little like, I'm like, why you got to speculate? But if they're saying it, there's got to be maybe some, meat on the bone there, so as it were, because they're not convinced there is a writer. Because I think they would have probably been able to find out based on the connections that they have. So the two theories that they have here is James Gunn has kind of left the door open, which I don't know why he still keeps saying never say never. Which I'm like, just close the freaking door. Like, he says, no, we thought about it, but never say never. I'm like, just say never. Just be done with it. Like, and so is the door still open? Because that's the two theories. If you click out of it, John, they show the two theories are basically maybe indeed Robert Pattinson's Batman will join the DCU. That could be one theory behind this, which is unlikely based on everything James Gunn has said. But then the other one is, of course, that he himself is a writer, like the secret project he's working on. He keeps saying he's working with a writer, but maybe he's trying to throw us off and he's the one who's writing the next Batman movie. Or The Brave and the Bold specifically, John. Do you believe in either of these theories?
I don't think so, because he did say he did turn down the Batman. Not the Batman, but a Batman movie. Mm-hmm. So I don't think so. I just think he's working on it with somebody.
We'll
I
talk
think
about
this
that,
is
Frankie.
just... And we're gonna get into that, but yeah, I think this is just hearsay, and it's just like, oh, a theory, but that's just a theory, a film theory. Thanks for watching. Anyway, so yeah, that's all I. Yep. No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I did want to kind of quickly address the question from Jose Deborah Chow being back for. We don't know. It's too early. Like, it's just a rumor at this point. Like Daniel RPK was saying, they're working on developing a season 2. Whether Deborah Chow is involved or not is a question of, well, it depends on, if she wants to go. It could be that they're developing it without her. It could be that she brought some ideas and that's what they're working on. So we just don't know yet. There's no reporting on whether Deborah Chow will be back for Obi-Wan season 2. So let's get into the next quicket, because we do have a few more Superman related things. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about James Gunn. Speaking of Mr. Gunn, the co-CEO of DC Studios, he said Superman will not be the only DCU hero to wear trunks, adding that it's less likely that others have them, like Batman. It's more part of Superman's costumes than it is part of Batman's, he said, even though he's worn trunks a lot in the comics. So he, again, not quite shutting the door on the idea, but he's saying it's most likely not going to be the case. Do you think that's simply a matter of he's not going to be the one who ultimately cast the Batman for the DCU, considering that he's not likely directing that movie? Or he's just trying to be purposefully vague? What do you think is going on?
I think it's just being vague, but here's the thing. I have said in the past, like, I'm kind of indifferent. I would like to see Batman having the trunks because I think, again, it just kind of breaks things up a little bit better. I think Superman needs to have the trunks, not just for the reasons David Cornswet said. It's too much blue, and I don't think the red belt really like the suit, the Rebirth suit, for instance, that was just But I just think because I mean the best looking Bat suit we've gotten is probably the Ben Affleck suit. That was really the best suit. So
I really like the BVS one, and then
yeah.
I don't know, not the armor one, just the usual one. I thought was really good. I love all the Batman suit. I did like.
I think we could all unanimously agree the Flash one's dog shit. But like, you know, I think the trunks.
Martian Manhunter
more different. Would I like to see them? Yes, but I'm not going to be like, oh my god, it sucks without them. Like, I know I'm not gonna get angry the fact that Superman wouldn't have trunks. I'm just saying, like, I feel like Superman it's more necessary, while Batman it's not as necessary. So.
Yeah. Yep. Ben's cowl, I think, was the only thing I also didn't like because the ears
I didn't like the ears. I think
small.
we need a nice even. Like, I feel like in terms of the bat ears, I think the Christian Bale or Keaton / Kilmer / Clooney suits were all like the medium. Like, I don't want to see the Justice League Unlimited bat ears that are like the size of my arm, but like I don't want to see like the little teeny, because they look like cat ears almost, like little thingy. I don't.
That's like, the thing. I just the silhouette just didn't
instance,
work.
The picture
for me.
here, the picture here, they look good here. They absolutely look good. So yeah, here is like a perfect. Exactly. Like that. I think that would be cool.
Yeah. Dairy Queen, and I haven't yet had the Dairy Queen Superman.
The Blizzard is very good. It's not too sweet.
John has
You think it was sweet, but it's not too sweet.
Well, the Watcher did drop his scoop for the DC story that he wanted to talk about. According to the Watcher, take it with a grain of salt. Again, it's a scoop from the Watcher, so I guess we'll see, Watcher, if you are right or not, saying that Drew Goddard might potentially be writing and directing Brave and the Bold.
One can only hope.
I mean, does that mean Andy Muschietti is completely out of the picture? That's a good question. I mean, we'll have to just wait and see, because I mean, yeah, it's possible James Gunn makes an announcement. He doesn't seem to wait for big events to make some of these announcements. He will just randomly, answer. He's made announcements by literally answering people's questions on threads, like low-key just embracing the organic, method of viral marketing, and beyond just Superman. So we'll have to wait and see if that actually turns out to be true. But John, let's move on to the next quick hit. We do have some Superman stuff to talk about because in the continuation of what James Gunn mentioned, I think we have some more of his comments here. He said, speaking about whether Batman will have trunks or not, this was in one of those press junket interviews that he did for Superman. And Gunn said, we haven't decided about the trunks. And the trunks are good. We'll see what happens. I think it's less likely that some of the other characters would have trunks. It's more of a part of Superman's costume, like we mentioned earlier, than it is Batman's, even though he's had trunks in a lot in the comics. So I'm starting to see more and more, like it's basically James Gunn's thinking with regards to trunks is more along the lines of most filmmakers, including Zack Snyder, who ultimately chose not to go with trunks with Superman because they just couldn't figure out a way to make it look good. And honestly, in Man of Steel, it would have looked really out of place considering the kind of story and movie they were making. With Superman and James Gunn, ultimately, even for him, David Cornswet had to convince him to do it. I just don't know if it's ever going to work for Batman. Martian Manhunter, we have seen him in the animated version, but even the Martian Manhunter we got in the Justice League movie from Zack Snyder didn't have it. So, I don't know, John. What do you think?
I feel like Superman needs to have it. I think it would be kind of funny, like, in his own Clark Kent kind of way that he's the only guy that wears trunks. Like, I don't know. I just feel like that would be funny. But Martian Manhunter, I feel like I get why they wouldn't. I kind of like how he has like not like a real super suit. Where's my super suit? Anyway, but I like how he has kind of just the X, a cape, and like trunks and boots, because it's like he's an alien. He doesn't have the same like cultural like aesthetic that like we do of like you're not supposed to like show skin in public. Like he's an alien. He doesn't know that.
Well, the same for Superman too. I mean, people make the same argument for him.
Here. Martian Manhunter that's fair. He was, beamed to Earth.
That's fair.
He was like a full-grown adult. So, I'm not saying Martian Manhunter's stupid, like, but it's like he just doesn't have the like awareness. Kind of the same thing as Starfire or like, the Doctor, I know Doctor Who mentioned, where they just like either don't have the awareness or they simply don't fucking care. Like, it's like, I'm an alien. I'm not part of your weird society. I do what I want. And that's kind of what it is. He's like, obviously in his civilian identity of John Jones,
easy
work with that. But like, Martian Manhunter, he kind of just doesn't care. So I like how he only has like a cape and like a couple, but he shows his like fucking biceps and his thunder thighs and his like, his yoked form. I just like kind of like that, but like I understand why they wouldn't go with that. But I don't think it's as like essential as it is for Superman. Like Superman, I feel like it's essential. Batman, it would be nice. Martian Manhunter, I feel like it would add to the character. Everyone, and then like obviously Wonder Woman, she doesn't wear pants, so like I would hope she would wear trunks, because then it's turning into the Rule 34 version. But like, outside of that, it doesn't really matter for me.
Yeah. Yep. I was gonna mention the Watcher was qualifying his scoop from earlier. He doesn't believe the whole Drew Goddard writing and directing is actually necessarily true. He heard it from a friend. It's something that was floating around the studio backlot, which, hey, you know what, word gets around, but it's that's the thing, that's the risk that we take with the game of telephone. Things could get exaggerated, out of whack. Drew Goddard is working alongside James Gunn as one of his trusted confidants, who has obviously contributed quite a bit
as well, but
on
like
the creative
that's also
side,
like a writer's reason to show off skin, so
yeah. But I don't know if we're gonna, exactly. I don't know if we're gonna get to see Drew Goddard take over, unless indeed it's true that that Andy,
I mean, and also
Andy's busy.
Somebody did ask, what has Drew Goddard done? He's mainly a writer. He wrote, ironically, with Matt Reeves. He wrote Cloverfield. He wrote and directed Cabin in the Woods. He wrote World War Z and The Martian. He directed, wrote, and produced the very underrated Bad Times at the El Royale. And he's writing the upcoming Project Hail Mary. He's also written episodes for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Alias, Lost. He created Daredevil and was the executive producer, I think, for the first season. And he's also wrote some of Defenders. So he has a lot of prowess in the superhero community. So yes, and I think he would be a great fit for Batman, since Daredevil kind of fits into that Batman aesthetic a little bit of like a street hero. So yeah.
It could be fun.
Be better than Andy Muschietti. I'll give him that. Like,
it could be fun. You never know. All right, moving on to the next thing, shall we? We got some more David Cornstalk stuff to talk about. Actually, no, hold on. Did you miss one?
Did I miss one?
I think you might have. Let me see if I can find it. I think I have it here.
One? I apologize.
There we go. So David Cornstalk was talking about how his Superman would react.
No worries. I'm a disappointment. It's okay.
It's all good. That's how you're both doing it. David Cornstalk was talking about in one of his interviews with Extra TV, again, part of the press junket for Superman. He was asked, how do you think you'd react to Batman? How do you think your Superman would react to the existence of Batman? Obviously, we have seen in BVS how Henry Cavill's Superman reacted to Batman. But David Cornstalk basically answered saying, as soon as he finds out that there's a man who dresses as a bat protecting his city, he's like, as in Superman's like, I want to go check that guy out. Which is a very different approach than, the bat is dead, consider this mercy or something. Yeah. Very different. Or like, so I do appreciate the whole, a man who dresses as a bat, because that immediately threw me back to Aquaman's comment in the theatrical version, dressed like a bat. I dig it. He's like, oh, you're getting along with others, I see these days. He's like, maybe temporary. And it's like, I do appreciate that kind of banter. And I hope we get more of it in this new universe. But that's interesting that James, David Cornsweet would have that kind of reaction. There is another David Cornsweet quote we'll get into later regarding his reaction to being asked about comparing himself to other previous Supermen, which will be interesting. But John, the Rotten Tomatoes score is out for Jurassic World Rebirth. And I mean, after the first 73 reviews, it was sitting at 58%. We can take a look at the latest one. I'll see if I can find it. That's not really high. That's a failing grade, 58%, John. And we've heard from people even before the Rotten Tomatoes score got released that this may not be the best one in the franchise. In fact, that score comes pretty close to the third Jurassic Park movie. Jurassic Park 3 had a 49%. The Lost World actually had a 52%, so it's not that far off.
So it has gone down. It is now.
Oh my god! 54. Okay, 54%.
Oof!
Yikes!
It's got 92 reviews now.
Wow, that's not good. 92.
And also, thank you, Caleb. If it's 1%, we have to take that as an absolute certainty that it's a great movie.
There's a 1% chance we have to take it as an absolute certainty that it's a good movie. It's a great
That's
movie.
That's not how percents work, Bruce.
Although again, that argument he was making a point. Anyway, all right. The math doesn't work, but it's not supposed to work.
It's like the Scott, my guy.
It's like the Scott Steiner promo from back in the day. Some of you guys will get the reference. But anyway, I did want to kind of go back to this other article for a second, John, because
yeah, sure.
They talk about the rest of the franchise, and I guess it's in line with the other movies. For example, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom had a 47%, even lower. And then the Dominion was the last one, right? World Dominion, Jurassic World Dominion had a really bad score, 29%. Now, the thing is, Jurassic World had 72%, which is, compared to the other scores, like, amazing. But all three of the Jurassic World movies, despite their scores, despite a 29% for Dominion, made $1 billion. So do you think it's going to actually affect the box office?
No, I don't
score is
think so.
this low?
Crap. People in like in foreign, categories, they like this crap. They like Fast and Furious, which we'll get into soon enough. They like this kind of garbage. So it's like it's gonna make $1 billion and it's gonna be trash, and they're gonna make more. And then even though like none of these movies have been good since the first one, except with the exception of Jurassic World, they're gonna keep pumping them out because that's what I'm saying. If they made if Robert Eggers made a movie,
make it happen, James Gunn.
Gaslight movie with Robert Pattinson, that would have been amazing.
Make it happen. Let's bring Robert Eggers into the DC Elseworlds world.
Jurassic
the
World
refunds. Yeah, I saw that he was really angry at the fact that he actually watched the movie, and that his reaction to watching that movie.
That's
was
what
like,
I'm saying too. David Fincher directing a Batman movie would be the fucking greatest thing ever. He would never do it in a million years, but he would be the best choice for a fucking Batman movie. It would be the greatest Batman movie of all time.
Also, yes, Ron is making good choices. Go see F1, but much better movie. I will say that John Campea, he was as mad about his experience with Jurassic World Rebirth as I am about Fountain of Youth. It's like, I'm not getting that time back. Like, I'm actually angry about the fact that I spent 2 hours or more than that watching that movie. But yeah, Gotham by Gaslight would be fun. All right, John, let's keep going here. We got a few more quickest to go. Some interesting stuff, though, because over the weekend, the report started coming out. Again, this one's from Daniel RPK, that Sony has reportedly paused all plans for their live-action Spider-Man spin-offs, including their planned Null project. So it looks like for the time being, or indefinitely, all future Spider-Man spin-off movies have been shelved, canceled, postponed indefinitely, whatever you want to, we're not getting any more of them. Are you surprised? Because I know for the longest time people were saying that Sony is retooling. They're trying to like gather themselves and maybe
that
improve the quality.
Speak for like, we're canceling this shit, but we're gonna act like so the investors don't like drop out, that we'll like do this thing and the other thing and like we'll come back better than ever. But yeah, they're probably pretty much done.
Yeah, I don't know if here's the thing. Those Venom movies, each successive movie made less money than the last one, so And the quality also, the first one was fun. The second one was like, what the hell did they make? The third one was like even more, outside of a few highlights that I enjoyed. Even that some people didn't care for. They do have Spider-Verse stuff at Sony, Monique, but that's not connected to the other live action spin-offs. Like, they kept the animation stuff separate. So we're talking about how, here's the thing though. None of these spin-offs really connected because after they did that terrible post-credit sequence where like, you want to team up? And Michael Keaton somehow, I don't know how much they paid him for that one cameo. But no more Madam Web, no more Kraven the Hunter, no more Morbius, and Venom is done. So nobody's asking for that, Hosea. Nobody wants to restore the Sonyverse. This is good news. Indeed, this is good news. And on that fact, John, let's move on to the next thing, because we also have potentially other good news from the world of Netflix and specifically Squid Games. Now, I will say this before I get to this article, John. There are some spoilers here, so if you haven't finished
Kate
the
Blanchett.
final season of Squid Games, in the last episode, Kate Blanchett shows up as one of those recruiters, that get you for the game. I won't tell you what happens at the end of season 3. Don't read the article too closely. But basically, at the end of the season, our main character is, the front man. He's in LA and he's in a taxi and he basically drives by Kate Blanchett recruiting somebody else. So the implication being these games happen worldwide, and so they may be an American version. And there has been some rumors going around.
Speaking of David Fincher.
David Fincher potentially wants to direct an English version of Squid Games, which I'm like, does that mean it's going to be a movie or a TV show, whatever the case might be? David Fincher is already he's doing something else with Netflix right now, right?
He has a deal with Netflix. He has a ton of projects. He apparently had there was like a Western crime thriller he wanted to do. There was a bunch of remakes of Alfred Hitchcock movies he wanted to do. He was attached to a Chinatown prequel series. Mm-hmm. He's been a busy boy. He wants to do a remake of Rope and Strangers on a Train. The man is busy. Apparently Mindhunters was another one. They're trying to plan a trilogy of films.
The thing about this article that was interesting is the creator of the show said they purposefully left the ending kind of open-ended so that there could be future stories in this universe. They said is like, look, I didn't put in the Kate Blanchett cameo to specifically tease an American version of the show. It was amazing. It was a coup that they even figured that out. Like, they made it happen somehow. But they didn't really, mean for that to directly lead to another, spin-off of the show. So as of right now, Netflix also hasn't commented on anything like that. So like you said, John, David Fincher has a deal with Netflix. So this could become one of his many projects. But as far as we know, it's not guaranteed. So if you guys watch the end of the season and you see Kate Blanchett, oh my God, are we getting a American Squid Games? Well, as of right now, we don't know for sure. So it may be coming eventually, but as of right, they're certainly not being very public about it. And we will keep going because, John, there's more spoilers in here, man. Like, move on. Come on, just keep going. We're spoiling it for people. No more. Yeah, good thing we're not getting any Morbin time. But you know what we are getting more of, John? This is the news of the day because Papa Vin Diesel has revealed I had to make sacrifices. There was a lot going on. Papa Vin Diesel has said, he's revealed that Fast and Furious finale, basically colloquially known as Fast X Part 2, has got a release window. And he says that somehow Paul Walker's Brian O'Connor, or like
Brian O'Connor returns.
It will return, which I don't understand how that's going to happen. Don't boo this franchise. This franchise is amazing. It's given us some of the most iconic moments in the history of Hollywood. Like, hold on to your pickup trucks and carburetors because they might be coming back to car today.
You don't turn your back on family.
I don't know how they're gonna bring
Vin Diesel
Paul
100% turned his back on family. Like, my
literally
friend,
he becomes the villain in, what was it, the 8th
Fate
movie?
of the Furious.
Yeah, 8. That Fate, with an 8 of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say this. Like, my friend has been like going on tirades and rants about this news, and it's just like I kind of like. Here's the thing: I don't really care about Fast and Furious. I've never seen a single one of these movies. I don't plan.
How
on
dare
seeing any
you?
of these movies.
How dare
However-
you, John?
However,
Oh my
I
god.
will say I kind of agree that this is a bullshit move because it's like, okay, you tainted the legacy of your friend by making more of these fucking movies,
Mhm.
and now you're tainting it even further by bringing his character back. It just goes to show that you never actually cared about the death of your friend, and you just want to make money, and you're an egotistical asshole. So I'm just gonna say that Vin Diesel can just go suck a log, and frankly, fuck this franchise even harder, more than what I thought.
Okay, look, here's the
initially.
thing. Here's the thing. The news here is that he showed up at Fuel Fest on Saturday in Southern California. He said that the next movie in the franchise, I don't, here, this is the thing that confuses me though. They were going to do the spin-off with Jason Momoa and The Rock. I could continue some of the story from the last one because The Rock, of course, returned to the franchise. Dwayne Johnson is back in this. So I wonder how that's going to fit into this timeline, but he did say, Vin Diesel said that the next movie in the franchise, the next Fast and Furious movie, I guess the mainline one, so Fast 11 or whatever, which is, I think, the final movie in the franchise, is meant to hit theaters in April 2027. And of course, he also said that, you know, they're going to try to bring Brian O'Connor back. This wouldn't be the first time, though, because obviously in Furious 7, they with the help of some AI, some CGI, some VFX compositing, using old footage of Paul Walker, and of course having his two brothers who very much look a lot like him, quite frankly, as stand-ins. They filmed a lot of footage to make that work. But then I believe in Fast X, we got a cameo, sort of, and they kind of used some of the same technology. I mean, you know, rest in peace, Paul Walker, but clearly, I mean, as long as it's okay with his family and estate, you know, I guess it's okay. I just don't think you can do this in a way where it's gonna be like the whole movie. You can't, right? You know, it's just, yeah. Hopefully the family retires after this movie, because this franchise, they've literally gone to space and back. So I don't know what else they can do at this point. But the next Fast and Furious movie, guys, April 2027. If you go off of what Vin Diesel's gotta say, who knows? I mean, that's a pretty tight timeline, John. Pretty tight timeline. That's before Batman comes out. The Batman 2, that is. So, all right. Let's get on to the next one, shall we? The next story comes to us from Instagram, and it's Superman related, John. This is the Eyes Up Here teaser for Superman, specifically something they showed on Adult Swim. So there's a couple of new shots in here, pieces of footage. We see more of that kid with the flag. We see that Superman shot again. This particular line of dialogue is like, "You seem to be very," or something to the effect of, "You are just obsessed with me, aren't you, Lex Luthor?" Which is the most Christopher Reeve-esque Superman dialogue that I've seen in this movie to date. Like, did you see this one, John? Because this looks fantastic to me. Again, a lot of the footage that we have seen before, but then a few new shots that we haven't. And Crypto, it made me laugh.
He's not listening to Jim Croce. You don't tug on Superman's cape.
Nope, you don't. I do love the line though from, he's like, you're just for whatever reason you're obsessed with me, Lex, which again feels very classic Superman, very much like what we would have seen in the Christopher Reeves movie. I can't wait to see more of this. I quite frankly can't wait to see more of this. That was cool to see with Toonami. Yeah, exactly, dude. Oh yeah, man, Toonami brings back memories. Yeah, it was shown during Toonami. Thank you, Elite Easy. Exactly. I stopped watching TV spots. Well, George, if you're watching the show, we're going to talk about it. So unfortunately, you'll have to just keep up with it. So moving on to the next thing. This is from the Real Soups. This is from when they were in Rio de Janeiro, clearly. John, what are you doing when you're not saving the world? Clearly, David Cornsweet is just being the everyday hero. Helping out folks, you know, getting good photos. The other day, he cleaned up James Gunn's
right in
glasses.
front of Zack Snyder. Perfect.
Zack Zaddy, you know, in the background. The negative Nancy's in the comments is kind of like, Richard Brosnan touched his head. Well, that's actually not negative. Never mind. Too many at this point. That is, well, look, the marketing is ramping up. They're spending so much money. The ad placements on this are crazy. Speaking of ad placement, John, now I want them to do an AMC version of this where they say, solitude feels good in a place like this. Because here,
yeah, like the
is.
Saw parody where it was Jigsaw in the theater.
Yes, I need that.
Honestly,
oh my god,
we need that. All of us. Honestly, I would love to see that because like, I would take it more than fucking Nicole Kidman.
Yeah. I mean, this should be. You know what would be great is they should get all three of the main actors involved. Like they should get Nicholas Hoult, David Cornsweet, Rachel Brosnahan, maybe even get James Gunn in there or something like that. Yes, they did, and I think one of the features we showed was exactly that. Want to play a game? I do remember that. What do you think, John? Solitude feels good in a place like this.
Sure.
Can that be its own thing?
Sure.
All right. Moving on. So I think did you have the DC news loaded up for the? Because I think that's it for the. Wait, is that for the? Oh no. Actually, hold on. There's
one more thing.
There's one more thing, and this is something you guys suggested to us. So I was like, let me go grab it because we did get a first look at the Hall of Justice, and I know one of you guys asked us about that earlier. I forget who it was, but let's talk about it, shall we? Because remember last year we were talking about the film there, and it looks like it actually is called the Hall of Justice already. And this is more of a Rachel Brosnahan, Lois Lane featured, like it's a Toyota partnership commercial. But in that, they show us the Hall of Justice. I'm wondering, John, do you think the part where it says the Hall of Justice is just for the commercial, or is it actually going to be that in the movie?
I think this might be just for the commercial because I don't believe it's the Hall of Justice just yet.
That's fair enough. Let's see if I can find the shot. Ooh, I think it's right here. Here we go. Let's see. I mean, that's her in character, though. No, actually, there's a car there. Never mind. So this is the shot. I don't know, guys. What do you think? Is this the Hall of Justice? Is this just for the commercial? Is it just for the commercial? Would it be nice
at the Hall of Justice.
Hey, George has got tickets for the real IMAX at Waterloo in London. If you know that, yes. I have walked by that before. Some later in the day. Okay, you're seeing it multiple times on day one. Good for you, man. You know what? Come on back on the show and we'll talk about it. We'll get into it. And Seven Manuel is there. Do you think Luthor gets in his fortress so easily because he doesn't have a key yet? Wait, what is that? What? I don't understand that question, John. But that's a bit of a logic doesn't logic in that question. Why do you think Luthor gets in the Fortress of Solitude so easily? I mean, if he
I think he meant, like, how do you think Luthor gets into his fortress so easily? Because he doesn't have a key. Or
well,
like
I don't...
Maybe he's trying to make a joke?
I don't understand the joke.
I don't know.
Because I don't think there is a key to the Fortress of Solitude. It's meant to just recognize you. But, dude, yes, this is the Hall of Justice. Speaking of what's on screen. That's it. That's the quick hits. We got more Superman coming up. But that was the Superman part of the quick hits. Let us know what you thought about all of those different stories. I'm going to hit the end to that music. And of course, guys, that brings us to the close, finally, of the news segment of the show. John, if you have those DC stories loaded up, we're going to dive into the main event of the show, as per always. So, guys, get ready because I'm switching up the graphics and we're going to get into it because it is finally time. I mean, hey, we've been talking about DC and Superman all show long. But now let's do it proper, shall we? Because it is time. It is DC time. Let's get into another episode of DCU Daily. We've got a ton to talk about today. A lot of Superman stuff, but we do have some Wonder Woman stuff, some Nubia news as well. I know you guys were asking about that earlier. One of you guys was like, who is that? And we'll talk about that. We'll get into it. John, I'm sure you were excited about it, from Batman to Wonder Woman to Nubia to more Superman stuff, the press junket. Which of the stories are you most excited to talk about today?
I'm excited to talk about the Nubia stuff. I think that's definitely the most interesting part today because it's like, again, we're trying to have like a wide range of stuff, and Superman is good, but like sometimes it can get a little repetitive, a little tiring. So it's nice to like see something different.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, James Gunn did say that building, the Hall of Justice, that's one of the things we'll talk about later, that Maxwell Lord owns the building. So that's a bit of a spoiler for a later conversation. But John, let's start off with this one here. The first one. Has David Cornsweet Superman already met Batman in the DCU? James Gunn teases that may have occurred already. What do you think about that? Let's see if you can, if you want to scroll down, we can find the specific quote in there. I found this to be really interesting. Again, James Gunn, as you know, he likes to tease. He said, well, first of all, we don't know if he's already seen a man dressed up as a bat, but I think that he'd probably see a kindred spirit in that. He's another crazy person wearing a crazy costume, albeit with a very different intent. So is he really saying anything there? Because I'm like, I guess he could have in the news.
I think he's just like leaving it up to the person that's writing and directing that movie. If they want to think, oh, he has, because he's like, I think he wants to try his best to remain hands off to the directors, like really make the obviously he's the architect. I am the architect. So he's the architect of it all, so he obviously has like bits to say, but in terms of like the real specific nitty-gritty of like, has Superman met him yet? Well, maybe we don't know, but I think like maybe he wants to steer it to like, yeah, maybe he has, and it's because I mean this is year 3 Superman. He's been around the block for a bit. And I feel like Batman is someone, especially if this is a slightly more veteran Batman, they would have like met and be like, yo, boy in blue, what the fuck are you doing? Who are you? Because I don't think we're going to get like 1% certain he's going to murder the human race. I don't think we're going to get that.
My
we're
voice
going to
is
get a Batman who's like, the idea of like Martian Manhunter holding his hand out. He's like, don't take it too personally, John. He doesn't trust anyone. He's like, a wise philosophy to have. So, I think we're going to like get that. Like Batman, he just doesn't trust anybody. So, I think we're going to get that vibe, but we're not going to get like 1% absolute certainty that he is our enemy. I don't think we're going to get that, but we're going to like, get, like the distrustful Batman.
Right. I also, I mean, I don't think it's gonna be a situation where they're gonna necessarily go out of their way to show us the idea that, oh yeah, Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne have met, but not Superman and Batman. I don't know what I'm gonna stop making hand gestures. But walking the, I highly doubt that, Bane. But yeah, what was the scene in the BVS? It was when they meet and like Lex is like, I love it's like Clark Kent meets Bruce Wayne. I love bringing people together. He's like, oh, the Daily Planet, is that one of those that I own? It's like he's pretending to be drunk, or it's like, be careful about what you hear, son. And it's like all of a sudden he's talking down to Clark in there. It's wild. It's wild. But we did have a question just quickly before we move on to the next thing. The Batman 2022 hello in the chat. We did talk about the reviews for Jurassic World earlier, Rebirth, that is. Not good. 5 out of 10 seems on par with what most people are saying, but it hasn't affected the box office of the last 3 movies, so we're thinking it will still make plenty of money. It's just critics don't like it, and it's understandable. The last 3 they didn't like either. The new Superman movie is pretty bright and goofy in a lot of ways. You can already tell that from the trailers too, so I definitely think that is an accurate assessment. Quit shipping, Dan. We'll never get it if they know the. What are we talking about? What? Shipping Dan? Okay, I don't understand what he meant by that. But John, let's move on to the next thing, because going from Superman now, let's talk about Wonder Woman. Right, the big thing about Wonder Woman is we have done like 4, 5 fan castings over the past couple of years on Wonder Woman, and Adria Arjona, I think is the way you pronounce her name, is been the one common denominator amongst pretty much most of them. We have been fan casting her. People in general have been fan casting her as Wonder Woman, and now that we have this new DCU on the horizon, even James Gunn has addressed it, and he's addressed it now again recently because he was asked about this at the press junket. And of course we know Adria Arjona and James Gunn have worked on a project before, so when he was asked about it, he said, look, I think Adria would make a great Wonder Woman. And then if you want to put up the other link and going into a bit more detail, his specific quote to Extra TV was, she was, and this was in regards to how, when we, it was last year, we talked about on the show that, oh no, James Gunn just followed Adria Arjona on social media. Like, what does that mean? And we were like, well, probably doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot, because maybe it's just that people have only just noticed now, as opposed to he probably followed her a long time ago. And that looks to be the case, because James Gunn mentioned that she was in a movie that I made 7 years ago. I followed her then. I didn't just follow her like now. So it seems like that was confirmed, that, he didn't just follow her because he has secretly cast her as Wonder Woman. He just followed her because, they worked on a project together 7 years ago, and he followed her back then. So, which is fair enough. I don't think that's something that's surprising. John, what do you think about that? Do you think this is James Gunn still sort of playing coy, or is he just being like legit, like, dude, I just followed her on social media? Because he worked on a project together, and he's probably done the same for a lot of his other actors as well.
Yeah, I think he probably is like, like your social media self is separate from your in real life self, and maybe James Gunn's social media self, he don't got a wife and he wants to look at pretty pictures of pretty ladies. So Adria Arjona posting a lot of good pics on Instagram, I assume. I don't know.
What are you talking? Wait, what are you talking about? James Gunn is married, and Adria Arjona is dating Jason Momoa. I don't.
I'm just saying, like sometimes you follow an Instagram person and you're like, I want to see
pictures
of pretty people. So like,
Frankie's like, nah, I don't believe it. She's Wonder Woman.
Would she
Pink
be?
Slatter, hi.
That's good. That's fucking. I don't know who you are, man. That's good. That's the moment of the night. Well, technically now it's the morning, but that is the moment of the night. Thank you very much. We appreciate you, King Slater or Slatter, whatever it is. Thank you.
That was good. Caught you out of nowhere. James, you know what, he might be, but we don't know that, and we care not to speculate. Who knows? Maybe his wife will care to know. James B. Gunn, though. James B. Gunn. All right. Well, there was one other thing that I wanted to get into regarding Wonder Woman, because to go into a little bit more detail, if you want to open up the Deadline article, and we scroll down here, this kind of goes into
in order of the stuff you had in the rundown. So I'm just...
no, it's totally fine. This is exactly the order in which we're going through this, because this kind of gives us a more extended version of the quote, because again, the interview was from a press junket interview that James Gunn did with Extra TV. So if you go up a little bit, right there. Actually, that's fair. So James Gunn, in addition to what we just mentioned earlier, the full quote is, "I follow Adria on Instagram, but every day everybody came out and said he just followed her. That means she's Wonder Woman. She'd be a great Wonder Woman, by the way." But then he said he followed her 7 years ago. So it's just people noticing it now, which makes sense, But so he's not saying no, but he's also not saying yes. I, for one, think that, they're probably already started looking at names, because remember, James Gunn said before they even brought Millie Alcock in for her audition and screen testing. Well, screen testing, happens after you get chosen for the role, but unless you're just doing chemistry tests and costume tests, which could be the case. But basically, James Gunn mentioned that he already knew Millie Alcock was going to be Supergirl before they even auditioned stuff, because he saw her in Game of Thrones. It was like, that's her. That's going to be Supergirl. That's going to be Kara. So maybe that's the same situation here. And also, we know that James Gunn likes to work with the same actors, right? Pom Klementieff, we know she's got a voice role in the new Superman movie. Alan Tudyk, obviously, he's worked on a million projects with James Gunn. Michael Rooker, we know, is coming back in Peacemaker. Who else did we say the other day? Didn't Michael Rooker also have a voice role, and he's one of the robots? And then, of course,
he had a voice role in Creature Commandos. He played a Nazi.
Right, but I know, wasn't there recently he said Michael Rooker, Pom Klementieff, and then Bradley Cooper are all playing roles in Superman? We talked about it the other week, so... I know it's possible, and Adria Arjona did say that she loves James Gunn. He gave her first movie ever, which was a big studio movie, and so she owes a lot of her career to him for picking, kind of similar to Chris Pratt. He went from Parks and Rec to being in a Marvel movie to now being a huge movie star. Got into the Jurassic World franchise. If James Gunn had gone in a different direction, things would have worked out probably very differently for both Chris Pratt and Adria Arjona. So she could be great. You guys seem to think so. Perfect for the role. John, based on all the castings we have done, what do you think is the fit for Adria Arjona for the role of Wonder Woman? Do you think she would be the perfect fit? Like, did she look the part to you? Do you think she needs to bulk up a lot? I mean,
obviously,
Gal
I think she
Gadot did
needs
it, and
I mean, I think she needs to bulk up a lot.
Yeah.
I would like to see a more picturesque kind of Wonder Woman. Like, I don't think Gal Gadot was that bad. I think she was good in her first feature.
I mean, Arjona is a pretty, beautiful woman herself. I don't
and she
see
can act.
anything
I
wrong with
think
that.
Gal
Yeah.
Gadot is she was fine with what she had, and she obviously Adria Arjona is a much better actress. I would like to see more picturesque, like for instance, I would like the more like physique of like Katie O'Brien. Katie O'Brien would be such an excellent Wonder Woman, and I think but I think Adria Arjona, she would be a very, very, very good pick.
Yeah. I mean, definitely a better actress than Gal Gadot. Not that, I mean, look, I don't think Gal Gadot is a terrible actress. She's definitely improved, but Adria Arjona is definitely a few steps above. I mean, you look at
much better.
Yeah, like just recently, what she was doing with in Andor, like season 2. I mean, season 1 and season 2. I loved what she did there, and she was a fantastic part of that show. And quite frankly, if you've seen the end of the show, then she might not be done with Star Wars yet. So I would love for her to join over the DCU. Of course, her current partner, or her boyfriend, like Jason Momoa, is already in the DCU as Lobo. So it'd be kind of meta if she does get the part, and then Wonder Woman and Lobo cross paths in the movie universe. That would be interesting. Yeah, exactly. She was in Andor.
And also, that's not how you spell my name. It's JOHN.
It's okay. It's all right.
It's not
autocorrect and stuff.
This is,
yeah.
If you look right here, this is, you can see it. Yeah,
right
there it
there,
is,
right there.
Boop, boop. Liz, 2 Z's, John with an H. Just like to say that. Well, I'm not gonna now from this point on, I'm not gonna answer to JON because that's not my name.
Yeah.
So
yes, Seven Manuel seems to think it's also a good fit there. But yeah, no, I do appreciate that, now James Gunn has finally addressed this in a more direct way. And look, if Natalie Portman could get into Thor shape, I think Adria Arjona can definitely do that too. Like Natalie Portman, she's a bit older. Like, not that she's old, she's a bit older than Adria Arjona, and she's further along in her career.
Also the steroids also definitely help.
Yeah, but like that's like common amongst all these actors. They're not like competing in the Olympics. Like, who gives a shit, right? Like they're not like exactly getting roided up to be in a like Mr. America or something. So they can put the muscle mass on and then take it off. It's like, shed it. Like David Cornsweet, obviously, he said he put on like 40 pounds for Superman. So of muscle, that is. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think, again, she's been a great pick in a lot of our fan casting. She comes up a lot as a good option. It will all ultimately depend on, again, what that script they're working on ends up being like, and what it's focusing on, and how the pieces fit. So yeah, I mean, but
you should be sorry.
she's as beautiful, as Gal Gadot, or depending on, I guess it's all subjective, beauty is, but I think she would be perfect fit. She also would, I think, fit the whole profile of, like, you don't want somebody who's just Caucasian, right? So you want somebody who has, I don't like to use the word exotic because that's the wrong way to approach it. We're not in 1945 anymore. She's got that more Mediterranean, that it could be whether it's Middle Eastern, or just from the Greek islands or something, like historically, how Wonder Woman has been portrayed as, like, especially in the New 52 version, like a Greek goddess. So she definitely fits that look. And height, honestly, I don't care for. It does not matter. I mean, Liz brings it up all the time because I think she does it almost facetiously. But
she does.
It does not matter how tall she is. Like, it really does not matter how tall she is. Like, if height really mattered, Tom Cruise wouldn't have a career, and he certainly wouldn't have played Jack Reacher. And I thought his Jack Reacher movies were fine. Mission Impossible, obviously, he's like, he would look even smaller next to Ving Rhames if they didn't, like, give him an apple box to stand on top of every once in a while. So God, okay, really, okay. Let's keep the comments to friendly, somewhat friendly at least. But all right, John, that's not the only thing about the world of Wonder Woman that James Gunn recently addressed, because in addition to talking about Wonder Woman herself and potentially, what Arjona could do in the role, he did also mention how he might be giving us Nubia in the DCU, because he said in response to a question about the character, you might be very happy in the distant future. So staying relatively vague about it, but I know that earlier Hunter was asking about this, so let's address it here. He was asking, what are your thoughts on Nubia or Vixen coming to the DCU? And one of the online folks, other creators, mentioned apparently that Nubia will be the DCU Wonder Woman. Jose, on the other hand, was wondering who Nubia is. So, John, do you want to kind of give us a bit of a overview on who that character is? Have you seen her in live action before? And then also what James Gunn said, we can address what he said.
She had like a bit part in like in one of the Zack Snyder like things. Like I think she was like kind of like a background like character, like she just like random black chick in the background. Oh, that's Nubia, yeah. But I mean, she was
like in the credits, you could tell, but like you wouldn't know in the movie.
I know she was like almost in the she was almost in the show, like the 70s show, and she's been in a couple things here and there, but it's nothing like not a lot. But she's there's been a lot of iterations, but the newest version is like she's like the twin sister of Diana. And then there was also, but I know in like in other versions she is like the commander of, she's older, she's the commander of like the armies or something, and she's also the love interest of Hippolyta and something like that. But she's kind of, I wouldn't say she's like a nobody character. She's been in the comics since like the 70s. So she's been in like she's been in the history of Wonder Woman. I think it was like distant, yeah, of course. So I think we'll maybe eventually get her, but like the most I could say is like she might be in like Paradise Lost. So in in the 70s, she was depicted as Wonder Woman's long lost twin sister and rival under the influence of Ares. But then it like changed over the years, and now she's a contemporary Wonder Woman and the successor to Hippolyta. So she's similar to very similar to Wonder Woman in a lot of ways, obviously being an Amazon, but yeah, she's a little bit older, I think, and now she's now a little bit older and that kind of thing. But like, yeah, exactly. She was made out of clay at the same time Diana was. That is, but the reasoning was they used a darker shade of clay, hence why she's black as opposed to white. So yeah, that's why.
That's a very biblical explanation.
But yeah, it's like I like thing is I don't really know a lot about Nubia. I just know she's essentially Black Wonder Woman. Like that's essentially the character. And
I mean, it's an oversimplification, but yes. What I will say though, the fact that he says he's aware of the character is significant, but he also never commits to the idea of Nubia is going to be the Wonder Woman, right? Because I think given what he's been doing with Superman, with Batman, his approach seems to be kind of like what Marvel did with the MCU. They want to give us definitive iterations of these characters, meaning that they're going to give us Bruce Wayne as Batman, Clark Kent as Superman, and therefore Diana Prince as Wonder Woman. We will have other versions potentially down the road as the universe evolves, but they have to start with the essentials. They have to start with like where the characters originally began in the comics. And when I say definitive, I'm not saying definitive as this is the definitive version. I mean like definitive in the sense that it's more maybe quintessential is the better word. So I don't think Nubia is going to be the Wonder Woman of the DCU, at least not to start. We're going to get Diana Prince. We're going to get her as the Wonder Woman, and could be that she, like Man of Time is saying, we get her Nubia in Paradise Lost first, but then it would depend how immortal are they just really? That's the other thing. We know they're working on the Paradise Lost show. It's slow moving like the Wonder Woman script. I also wanted to, before we move on from this topic, mention quickly, John, Melissa Barrera, which was also one of the names that you had mentioned as a fan casting. I don't know if you talked about this, but she had an interview earlier this year with A Shot magazine where she was asked about, hey, fans seem to think you might be a good pick for Wonder Woman. And she responded to that by saying, I think it's nice because of what the character represents. I think whoever gets the role, I just hope that they can embody the essence of the character, because I think that those movies, whether they're Marvel or DC, their reach is so big. And because those artists that get those roles will inevitably get a built-in fan base and have the eyes and ears of so many people, I think that it would be nice if they did something actually positive with the influence that they have to at least be a good example of the kind of human being that you want to be in the world, instead of using it for self-serving purposes. What do you think about the idea of Melissa Barrera potentially playing Wonder Woman?
No, I can't see it. I personally just can't see it. I think she's an okay actress. I think there are other better actresses for the character. But it's nice that she has a really good sentiment in regards to
Like, she understands
superheroes
the
and
business of
that.
Hollywood aspect of it.
Yeah.
It's all it's that whole, with great power comes great responsibility, and she seems to understand that quite well. So, but with that though, John, I mean, hey, guys, in the chat, in the live chat, in the comments, if you're watching after the show is live, let us know what you think about Adria Arjona, Melissa Barrera potentially being the Wonder Woman of the DCU. Who do you think James Gunn is going to pick? Will he be the one making the choice in the first place? Obviously, they're working on a script for the movie Wonder Woman. They also have Paradise Lost in the works. Do you think that's where we will get Nubia's first appearance? Or James Gunn said you might be happy in the distant future. How distant of a future are we talking about with Nubia's character, who in the comics has at one point replaced Wonder Woman as, the traditional Diana Prince Wonder Woman as the new Wonder Woman, or she could be, the twin sister, the long lost twin sister to Diana Prince. What do you think about all of that news about, the Themyscira and the Amazonians, and primarily Nubia and Wonder Woman? We'd love to hear from you. Right now, though, let's talk a little bit more about James Gunn and what he's been mentioning about Superman, and because recently this is something that was not part of the new press junkets. This was part of, I forget which stop it was. I think this was Manila, maybe, or it could be Rio de Janeiro, one of the two stops on the Superman World Tour. James Gunn was asked about this whole thing of like, why do you think like people can't recognize Clark Kent as Superman when he's just got the glasses on? Like, is it really the hypno glasses? The interviewer literally mentions the hypno glasses idea, and James Gunn is like, yeah, it's kind of been forgotten, but that's canon in the comics. And I mean, he's not wrong at all, John. Do you think that will be the canon explanation in the movies, that the hypno glasses are the reason why people can't recognize Clark Kent as Superman?
I kind of hope not. I mean, it's fine because I know like James Gunn was like, I want a logistical sense, but it's just like, if you think about it for more than 5 seconds, it makes sense that like nobody would recognize this guy, as there's just so many, like we've got so many real world examples of famous people not being recognized just because they look a little bit different or dress a little bit different than one would expect. Like I remember, for instance, there was this guy, a really tall guy that dressed really grungy. He looked kind of dirty, and my dad was convinced that it was Tim Robbins. And I'm like, no way would Tim Robbins dress like that. He's like, maybe that's what people want him to think. Or maybe he wants people to think like that because then people won't come up to him and be like, hey, I want a picture with you, or I want your autograph. So there is the idea of like, people like kind of duding up their faces because they don't want to be recognized. Obviously that doesn't happen all the time, but I mean, Superman, when you think about it, Superman isn't just like a celebrity. It's not just like, oh, I see him in a movie and I want his autograph. Um, Especially when it's like so different. And he's a hero. He's flying around, saving people. It's quick. Yeah, Jimmy Olsen also has some pictures of him. Um, but for the most part, he's not really like, you know, constantly in front of a camera, constantly like showing his face in front of that. And even if he did, it wouldn't be like um it wouldn't be this constant like, oh, I'm looking for a guy that has broad shoulders, a jawline, and a six-pack. Like, oh, I'm constantly looking for that guy. It's like we don't really think like that. We're busy. We're going doing our own stuff. Sure, you have like conspiracy theorists that constantly are like, oh, I need to look at that thing. You look at this thing. Yeah, you have those guys, but like there is the idea of like this guy isn't going to be recognized because, and on top of the fact, there is the idea of like a lot of people think that this guy who can fly and punch buildings is just a lowly little reporter for a newspaper. No one's going to think that. No, he's going to think that he has like an alternate identity because it's like, why would a god want to be among men? Like that's, it's well, yeah, it is not written, but again, even if you have an explanation for that, there is the idea that you know, but the thing is, Clark Kent is a random guy, and on top of the fact, no, everyone's doing their own thing. Nobody's like looking at every picture, at everything. It's just like first and foremost, it's a fucking comic book. Suspension of disbelief. Second, nobody's looking at Clark Kent's face that much. I don't think so. Or Clark Kent or Superman's face that much. And even if they are, if you can't get behind the idea of suspension of disbelief, if you can't get behind the idea of like Clark Kent is just like, nobody, fucking nobody's gonna think that Superman has an alternate identity. That's the thing. And you're gonna look at every dude with a nice jawline and like broad shoulders that like, oh, that guy's Superman, that guy's Superman, that guy's Superman. No, we're too busy with our own shit. We're doing it like the idea of Henry Cavill in a Superman shirt underneath a picture of his face was not recognized in Times Square. Tom Holland, when he was undercover for Spider-Man, someone was like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm actually Spider-Man. She's like, I don't believe you. Like, just it's in our like best judgment as like walls up. We don't trust people, and we're not gonna believe there are some naive people, we're not gonna believe everything. So we're gonna be on like, and the idea of like nobody's gonna fucking see guy in a suit walking down. Yes, the Flash does that as well. And there's also, the idea of like guy walking down the street and you're like, oh, I think and that's it. Like that guy kind of looks like Superman. But and then you're like, no. And then we have our own like things for it. So it's like, yeah, I just think it's kind of a ridiculous thing that we need like a specific reason that nobody's gonna recognize this guy. And it just, and the thing is he contorts his body. Yeah, like there was the famous like thing from All-Star Superman where he hunches himself over, he wears baggy clothing, he makes himself look smaller, and then he also changes the octaves of his voice, like even more so in the comics, where it's like he changes the octave of his voice like 3 decibels higher, and to make it so that it's not as obvious.
And that's something we saw with Christopher Reeve, and we have seen the exact same thing with David Cornsweet in the trailers, right? He's like, he goes from like, all right, let's do it, Lane. He's like, Miss Lane, and it's like all of a sudden his voice goes down an octave. So
I think that's great. Miss Lane, I am Superman. Like it's like there's a whole thing.
Yep. Oh, it is. Is it Kryptonian tech? All right. Well, you know what? If it's that kind of a movie,
like specifically because there's a whole bunch of reasoning for the comics. It was like the other reasoning was like when he couldn't control his laser eyes, his heat vision. They made glasses out of lead so that he couldn't fucking like hurt people. I mean, I'm not gonna like hate the idea of hypno glasses. Again, that adds to the whole Silver Age charm of it all. So that there is that as well. So I think, ouch, that's
wow.
mean. But it's like, yeah, I think like there's, even if you can't get around the idea of suspension of disbelief, there's a lot of real world reasons and comic book reasons that this guy can get away with it. I think personally,
it's also the hunched over
my
thing
dad
is also
doesn't
a big
believe
one.
me. He's like, oh, I would be able to see it. It's like, no, you wouldn't. Shut the fuck up. You used to live in New York. You used to fucking like run across things, not pay attention to people. I got to get to work. I got to do this. I got to get to school. I got to do this. It's like nobody is gonna sit and like be like,
I was That's the thing, though. It's also, I think, the small things that you do, like it's the context. Most people are not looking for Superman when they walk around
No,
town.
exactly.
And also the whole like the hunching over part, I think, is also true. And yeah, in that interview, James Gunn might have just been referencing, yes, an old part of the. It's like an old part of the comics, but I guess it's confirmed now that it's in the movie. The hunching over thing, though, is kind of interesting because we last saw that with with Christopher Reeve, and now with David Cornsweet. We
my God, I'm a totally different person, guys.
You do look different. We did get a little bit of that, I feel like, with Brendan Routh's Superman, but we haven't gotten a ton of that in the TV shows. Although, yeah, I mean, I know that Dean Cain sort of changed his voice up a little bit. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of different things. But the whole glasses thing is like, Superman has gadgets and All-Star Superman, like Watcher said. That's an inspiration for James Gunn. It makes sense that, that's what we're going to get. And then, yeah, ultimately the casual audiences just need a simple one-liner, which seems to be what they're going to do in this movie to explain it away. So, because we see on Lois Lane's desk that she's trying to figure out with glasses, without glasses. So maybe that will, be addressed in the movie much, much more so. They might even explain the whole trunk situation. I bet somebody in this movie will point it out. So yeah, he has a different hairstyle. Although in that particular shot we were looking at earlier, it looks like that might be he just got, rained on or something. It just looks like his hair is particularly messy on that day. But I mean, John, before we get into the Superman press junket stuff, which will be the the final story of the night, this is just a quick overview from the comic account on Instagram, which is really, really fun. They put out some good stuff. They're talking about like, hey, this is where the DC Studios slate is right now. So not just the slate, but also what's making the news. I mean, Superman is tracking for a really strong box office opening. We know that. The high number is 185 million domestic. And the low number is like 125, I think it was, or 115, which on both ends is really impressive. On the high end, it will be the best ever for any DC movie, for any Warner Brothers Pictures movie. I mean, this is a DC Studios movie in particular, but in general. So there you go. Frank G is giving you some advice on how to disguise yourself. So Superman tracking really well at the box office. Supergirl is deep in post-production. We know they just wrapped up filming recently. Michael Scott has the face that we all had on Friday talking about the Batman Part 2 script was finally completed and submitted. Well, revisions be damned. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Peacemaker Season 2 arrives this August. Everything they put out about that from marketing, it looks fantastic. Lanterns is also about to wrap filming. We know they're currently still filming, but they're getting closer to the end. Clayface is getting ready to go into pre-production, and we already have our lead actor. So between all of those different pieces of news, John, we've got like a half a dozen different projects up and running, and each of them has something great going for them. Whether they're almost done filming, going into pre-production, marketing to come out soon in August, literally days after, weeks after Superman. We finally, the big thing was the Batman Part 2. Where is it? The script is done at least. And Supergirl is deep in post-production. You might even get to see some previews potentially. They haven't confirmed anything at Comic-Con. So, or they might wait until next year, but who knows? Do you think that this is where did you think this is where we would be a couple of years ago, or a little more than a couple of years ago, when James Gunn and Peter Safran were hired? The fact that they've been able to get all of this up and running so quickly, it's not like we're just getting one movie and then wait and see, kind of like what Kevin Feige did with the first Iron Man. There's a whole universe with movies and TV shows, not to mention the all the other animated things. Like Creature Commandos already has a season 2, and many other projects that we haven't even mentioned here. What do you think about the state of the DCU today?
I think
or DC in general, if you will, DC Studios.
I think it's really great to see. It shows that they really care about this, and that they really, they want to see this. Like, I feel like I understand like some people's like hesitance of like, oh, this was brought up so quickly. No, that's not good. I get that. I get that. So yeah, I think yeah, exactly. I just think
It's been a long road.
It's been a long road anyway. I think that this is you know, something, because I think like they had something in the pipeline before that announcement. They're like, we've set everything up, and then but also the idea of improv and play it by ear. So there's that as well. But they have a plan, but they can change the plan, like what George Lucas did with the original Star Wars. And on top of the fact what Kathleen Kennedy should have done with the sequels. And what they're doing is not right. But, you know, having a plan, but obviously things come up, you can change the plan. That's what it is. And I think people need to calm down about certain things, obviously. But I think they had a plan and they just executed it as quickly as they could, but also letting time come in and really, you know, make it work. And I really appreciate that. I think the fastness, I get why maybe some people would be put off by. I'm not talking about like the haters or anything. I'm just talking about like, it was kind of brought up like within like 2 years since that announcement. It's like, but I think it was like the planning helped. The planning helped, and it still gave the movie time. And we got a little bit of an appetizer for Creature Commandos. There was that as well. So I think that adds into it.
Yeah, no, I
Sorry,
agree with you.
Hosea. I apologize.
Yeah. LEDZ asking, did I see the Superman cast pictures of the couple AEW wrestlers? I did run across them. I will bring those into the show tomorrow. I mean, again, promoting the movie wherever they possibly can. AEW airs on Warner Brothers Network, so, you know, it's all in-house, and so they're cross-promoting the movie there as well. We'll talk about that another time. But, yeah, I mean, Supergirl and Lanterns, God, like, I know John has some reservations about Lanterns, but I mean, we're going to be getting that sooner than later. And then Supergirl, we've already seen a lot of behind the scenes photos. So don't ruin DC talk with Star Wars, John. There you go. Yeah, Creature Commandos. Creature Commandos is now coming out in the UK where it wasn't out before because HBO Max wasn't available, or it still isn't available in the UK. So if you haven't yet seen Creature Commandos and you live in the UK, you could see it soon in July. And then, of course, season 2 is on the way as well. So, yeah, having a real writer's room is also a big help. These are some of the structural things that the lessons learned over at Marvel for James Gunn. He's bringing that experience over. Obviously, the creation of DC Studios itself, from the perspective of David Zaslav, the goal was to give them the platform, the independence from the rest of Warner Brothers Pictures Group to do their own thing. Because James Gunn and Peter Safran directly answered to David Zaslav. That's why when people say that James Gunn is getting notes to cut the film down in size, from who? David Zaslav is not giving him those notes. Like, he gave him the job and said, look, you've got the power, you've got the authority and the resources to make this happen. You've got the power, the permission, the power, whatever, the authority, and the resources. And quite frankly, nobody else can tell James Gunn what to do. Yes, that could be a double-edged sword because you could get a Joker Folie à Deux out of that. But so far, James Gunn's instincts tend to be pretty good. So I do believe with the Superman movie, he's going to do...
I do believe.
He's going to do what needs to be done. And speaking of what needs to be done, John, we finally have to talk about the main event of the DCU Daily today because we have to get into the press junket for Superman. Of course, this is from Sarah Sampaio's account. They set up this like Daily Planet office space. I don't think this is not the set of the movie, but they did kind of set this up as a sort of a stand-in for photo shoots and just good background, and then all the main leads in the movie, and a lot of the bigger supporting characters and actors showed up, and you could see here Sarah Sampaio, of course, in the movie. She's playing Superman's girlfriend, Miss Tessmacher.
Looks like she's having a lot of fun with all of this, and got the cast looking great. Got that drip, got them sunglasses. Although Eddie Gazzaghi and Anthony Kerrigan and I think Maria De Faria are like, nah, fuck them sunglasses. But everyone got them sunglasses. Oh, and maybe I don't know who is in front of Anthony Kerrigan, but yeah, I think that's
Cat Grant, Michaela Hoover.
Gotcha. Okay. So none of them are like, hey, they're like, screw them sunglasses, but everyone else is like, hey.
Look, Miss Tessmacher and the engineer getting along well. Too bad Miss Tessmacher doesn't know what the engineer and Lex Luthor apparently get up to at night. But anywho, that's a theory. These two like look alike from certain angles. I'm like, I was confused a little bit for a while. Again, because they're not very well known, so you can easily mistake the two of them. But some of these behind the scenes photos for all the social media stuff they were doing and stuff, this looked great. I keep seeing more and more of these, latte, what do you call this? Photos, like whatever the thing is. Anyway, yeah, enterprising. They could be sisters. I saw this one for Sarah Sampaio, David Corns. Everybody was getting their face on a latte. And Nicholas Hoult, the cast together, the whole Fortress of Solitude vibe. Yep, exactly. They could be sisters. Literally, could be sisters. So, did Max hijack the show? What are we talking about? Max, like HBO Max? I don't know.
Max,
unless you're talking about. I think they're talking about your connection is getting a little blurry from what I can tell. Unless it's me. Is it me? Yeah, you're looking a little fuzzy, but I don't know if it's me. Yeah, you're the one who's looking fuzzy. I'm good.
Sorry,
I just checked.
My
it's all good.
Hold on, I'll be right back. I'll see what I can do.
Plot twist, they're sisters. I don't know if that will be the case, but that would be a plot twist if it was. MJF. What about MJF? Was that one of the AEW wrestlers that were taking photos with the cast of Superman? That would be interesting. There you go. Another photo with Krypto in the background. Them being sisters would be hella interesting. Indeed, it would be, guys. Indeed, it would be. Yeah, Wendell Pierce was on the Kelly Clarkson show. We talked about it last week because we showed like all the footage from that. The interview is fantastic, and I'm glad that you found that, Jose. It is pretty good. The show is syndicated, so you might have. I mean, I don't know if you watch it on TV, if you just found the clip online, but yeah. So, all right, moving on to the next thing. Of course, it did another social media friendly photo shoot, like, strike a pose. And I like how he's holding Lois in the air, David Cornsweet is. All the other poses look nice. You could see them move around quite a bit. And he could take in the back, Wendell Pierce there, Anthony Kerrigan, of course, Michaela Hoover, Sarah Sampaio. I was surprised that Jimmy Olsen there, Skylar Gazondo had Sarah Sampaio held up there for a bit. I'm like, Sarah Sampaio is a pretty big girl. You still look a little choppy, John.
All right, let's just try to wrap this up then before I immediately.
Yeah, it looks like the internet might be on its way out for you. It's all right though. But yeah, this looks fun. This photo shoot looks fun. Part of the press junket. In addition to that, John, one of the things that they did was obviously interviews, as one does in a press junket. Day one of the press junket, that is. I've said that word way too many times today. Superman
press.
The current Superman, David Cornsweet, was asked about a little something that a lot of people seem to take problem with in Man of Steel, which is the scene where Pa Kent stops Henry Cavill Superman from saving him from a twister because he doesn't want. He feels like the world is not ready for Superman, which I understood the symbolism in that. I personally think it works perfectly fine in the story they were trying to tell. But obviously, there's a lot of detractors of that. It's been a controversial issue for years and years now. So somebody asked David Cornsweet the question, what would you do? What would your Superman do if you were put in the same situation? And David Cornsweet, learning from the James Gunn School of PR, knew exactly how to dodge and sidestep the question completely with his answer, saying, oh, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'd like to think my character in Twisters didn't get a final ending, but I'd like to think he gets dropped by the side of the road, mud splattered on him, and Superman comes in and is just like, hey, buddy, it's okay. You need to be a little bit nicer, which has nothing to do with the question, but that's what David Cornsweet said. He handled it really well, enterprising.
Based as well. Love it, David. Love it.
Eddie mentioning how wrong Sony did him in X-Men. Yeah, well, you know what though? It's kind of fair because this character was under. Yeah, it wasn't Sony though. Yeah, that's you're right. It was Fox. I am one of those detractors. Well, Frankie, I disagree with you, but that's okay. It doesn't mean we can't both enjoy the new movie.
Like, I get the scene. I understand the scene. It's still fucking stupid. I'm just saying. It can be both. You can understand the scene, but it can still be a fucking stupid ass scene. It's like Nick Fury. I understand the board's decision. but I elect to
No, but the
fucking
thing is, but
ignore
look,
it,
it's
so.
the thing. No. It's here's the thing though. But the one part of it is like you're giving two very different opinions. It's the whole thing of I understand it. Okay, I know you understand it, and you say it's a stupid scene. Sure, that's your opinion. Like I think that it's a fantastic scene, but I also understand the scene. I think it's a fantastic scene. It's completely fine to be on two opposites ends of the spectrum. I mean, you can say the execution was flawed. That's I personally I've seen Man of Steel literally dozens of times, and I think it's works really well. Like it because especially the setup leading up to that moment, the scene where they're fighting in the cars, that whole thing of if you have ever lost somebody close to you, like in terms of like a grandparent or a parent, and like the last thing you did was have an argument with them, and then something like that happens, and then they pass away, and it's something where you feel like you could have done something more, especially Superman, who knows Clark knows he could have done something more, but it's Superman was like, well, not Superman, like Kevin Costner's Pa Kent was like, the world's not ready. He was that serious about it, and you could tell he's been having that conversation with his son growing up. We see that in the movie, like for years. It's not something that the idea that is just in his head. Like he at one point in the movie, says like, or like he gets asked, like Clark is like, when he saved the people of the bus, he's like, I don't know, what was I supposed to do and then not save them? And that Kevin Costner's Pa Kent is so unsure about the idea of how will the world perceive my son Superman as the most powerful being. Are they going to just lock him up and experiment on him as an alien, which quite frankly, if it was a kid and they found out, they might as well could have done that. Let's be real, that's the world we live in. So on that front, like you can understand, from father's perspective, he's like, maybe like should I have let them die? Maybe like that's that same character. So like I get it.
That's
I get
what
it.
I defend that scene because he didn't say yes. He said maybe. That doesn't automatically mean yes. So first off. And second, it's like when you become a parent, it's like fuck everybody else. I care about my kid or kids.
Yeah.
Like literally nobody else matters except your child. And you will do everything in your power to protect your child. And this is truncated with him showing him like the ship and like, can I just keep pretending I'm your son? You are my son. Like that's like what they're trying to show.
That moment
here.
every time gets me every time. Yeah.
But it's like the whole thing is like, it's just like, it's how a parent would react. It's like, it's like, I don't like, this is like kind of a smaller thing where it's like my dad has said to me, it's like whenever it's like raining outside, he's like, okay, drive carefully. But he's like, but also if something happens, I don't give a flying fuck about the other people. I don't give a flying fuck about the car. I don't give a flying fuck if you knocked into a building. Are you okay? Are you alive? That's all I fucking care about. Because that is exactly the same type of shit that they would. Now, should it have been better executed? Absolutely. Same with the tornado scene. Not a great scene. Should have been better executed. However, I mean, that's what a lot of Man of Steel is. Could have been better executed. That's pretty much the movie in a nutshell. But
that is again an opinion, but like
what
fair.
They were going for.
Yes,
it should have been better, yes, but I get it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I disagree on the execution part of it. I thought that was, for me, from my perspective, it works really, really, really well. But yeah, you know what? That's why Man of Steel is forever going to be that divisive movie. So, and I understand that Elite Easy, the whole, I mean, look, that script was not written by Zack Snyder. That script was handed to him by David S. Goyer and Christopher Nolan, mostly David S. Goyer, and Zack Snyder directed it. So that comes later in the BVS and stuff like that. So, and whether you think they were interesting ideas badly conveyed, or like I think Man of Steel is a great movie. It's probably one of the most underrated superhero movies ever made, and quite frankly, my favorite superhero movie to date. We're going to keep the ball rolling because this time to get away from the Man of Steel talk, let's talk about the new Superman movie that is on the way. The 5 biggest spoilers from the press junket interviews, including who owns the Hall of Justice. I feel like a lot of these we've already discussed throughout the show, so I'm just going to dive in, but, heads up, you might, if you want to really avoid spoilers, then just tread carefully. But, number 5, David Cornsweet potentially being defined by Superman. We talked about the whole curse. And well, he was asked about that, he's a relative unknown still as an actor, but like, this is the biggest role of his career. And this is his answer. He says, a role where I can honestly say like this is a role where I can honestly say, if this is the only role that I get to play for the rest of my life, would I do it? The answer is yes. I think I've probably stolen that from Christopher Reeve. So again, David Cornsweet just, knows the right things to say. And he continued on to mention having with his life set such an example of persistence, goodwill, and selflessness. I just feel grateful. Talking about Christopher Reeve, I think every actor is playing the Superman from the comics, but is also playing the Superman of Christopher Reeve. So again, this understanding that you're standing on the shoulder of giants, figuratively and literally. I think David Cornsweet gets it, and gets it in a way that I don't know if every Superman actor that's come before him has gotten that. So I do appreciate that. John, what are your thoughts on what he said here?
Yeah, I think that works. I think he's, he understands his role in this, and I can't wait to see him absolutely nail it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely indeed. Number 4, as you talked about before, Maxwell Lord owns the Hall of Justice. So this is something that I believe this comes to us from James Gunn mentioning, you see the Hall of Justice, you see that it's not even finished yet, and it's owned by Maxwell Lord, and he owns the Justice Gang. And that last part seems like he's like, oh, they're his slaves, but okay, I get it. I get the idea. But do you think this then ties into the whole thing of they're recruiting more metahumans in Peacemaker? And obviously they tell Peacemaker that he sucks, but that's obviously Maxwell Lord trying to build JLI. Do you think this is just more and more confirmation that's the direction they're going in here?
Yeah. Yeah, and exactly. Like, I don't think it's just like a warehouse. It's just like, oh yeah, this will be here. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy, but it would be nice for like the eventual Justice League to take that. But like, I get like what they're going for here, like the more the corporate side of it, and I feel like it's going to be like a kind of a satire of that as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think this is just again more confirmation that if they're not going in that direction exactly, like following what happens in the comics and the animated shows, they're at least hinting at it, and they'll do that their own version of it, kind of like what they do in the MCU. They'll take something from the comics, then they'll sort of adapt it to the story of the universe that they have going here. So yeah. All right, there you go. Clark Kent's hypno glasses. We talked about that too. Again, one of the things that came up saying David Cornsweet, obviously in the movie, looks about as different as Clark Kent as any, Superman has ever looked. But the hypno glasses concept, I mean, we had a quote from Gunn earlier, but this is a different one. It looks like here he's saying something a little bit similar to, again, addressing the whole Christopher Reeve version of the character. So James Gunn mentioned Cornsweet looks the most different as Clark Kent to Superman, even more so than Christopher Reeve. But Tom King said, there's an answer for that in the comics. It's canon that there's hypno glasses that they hypnotize people. So I guess James Gunn was like, I was just leaning on the idea that he already looks more different than as Clark Kent to Superman than even Christopher Reeve did. But then Tom King chimed in and said, maybe you can just throw in a one-liner and explain that the hypno glasses do the trick. John, do you think the hypno glasses thing is necessary? Because I just feel like this alone works. Like the look works on its own. Like I would not guess twice. We've talked about it at length before. But the necessity of like, do you think this was just like too much information from like, is this the midi-chlorian situation? Do we really need to know they're hypnotizing people with the glasses that he wears?
I mean, if it helps James Gunn rationalize it, but like, I don't think it as I said before, I don't think it needs to be in the movie, but it's like, if it helps James Gunn rationalize it, then sure. I don't think it needs to be there though.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think this is a little bit over the top. Like, I really don't think it's necessary. But whatever. I mean, James Gunn trusts Tom King. Tom King's giving him advice, and he's following it. Whatever. Number 2, Superman's DCU future has already been decided. So, talking about this, James Gunn said it will be a couple of years before we see the Man of Tomorrow again. Hopefully less. Well, no, you might see him. You'll see him before then. He said, then clarifying his previous statement, saying the character or David Cornsweet, was the difference. He's saying, look, yeah, you'll see the character before that.
I think what he means, he'll appear in other shit, but he won't like have his own movie for
exactly
at least 5 years. I would say 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years. It's also, he might be referencing the fact that maybe you won't see David Cornsweet, but you will see Superman, as in maybe David Cornsweet Superman might cameo, like just and voiced by David Cornsweet in some of the animated shows, whether it's Blue Beetle or maybe even the next season of Creature Commandos. I wouldn't mind seeing that, some kind of like small cameo even. But yeah,
Smallville
ooh,
cameo?
yeah, maybe. I also think that the whole sequel talk, it makes sense that it would take at least a couple of years, right? Because like even James Gunn is writing Superman 2 right now, filming, post-production and stuff. Well, you're looking at least 2027, if not 2028 for a next Superman movie, which is completely fine. As long as it doesn't wait till 2030, like Matt Reeves, we'll be fine. There were some rumors, though, they're talking about in this article, that there might be a Lanterns cameo. Like as in Superman might show up in one of the episodes of Lanterns. So yeah, it's possible that he shows up in a few other things, in which case that would be next year. He might even cameo in Supergirl. So there's that. This one, I think I was a little more like, because I know we had our hopes up when we saw the squirrel on set when they were filming Superman last year. But apparently one Green Lantern Corps member we won't see is Chip. Because remember last year, the set photos made us believe we were going to get Chip. Because that was your theory. You were like, that squirrel could be a Green Lantern. And I was like, what? And then you had to explain to me the fact that this is actually a character from the comics. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I mean, it would certainly say something about the type of movie we're getting. And now that we've got all this marketing, all the trailers, it seems like it's that kind of a movie. But of course, James Gunn, kind of threw water on all of our hopes there for a bit, because he said, look, somebody who considers every life sacred, human or a flying dog or a squirrel, he just wanted to show that the most important thing for Superman is saving all of the people in harm's path, and that was really it. Like, yeah, he saves a squirrel at some point, but it's not because, well, I guess if he was a Green Lantern, he wouldn't need saving probably. So, John, are you surprised by this? That indeed we're not getting Chip, or maybe at least not yet?
Yeah, I didn't think so. I'm just saying, yeah, it could be funny, but yeah, I don't think we're, getting any major.
Yeah. Yep. That's unfortunate. But hey, we're gonna get a squirrel. Sorry, that's enough reference.
Squirrel.
Okay, so with that, John, what do you think about the press junket so far? Is it
Great,
is it giving you all the information
Almost
that you need?
4 hours. I want to go to bed.
The overload that you need each and every day. This is without the 20 things I took out from the rundown, by the way. Speaking of which, we will bring those in next show, which is tomorrow on Tuesday. I'm gonna see if I can go watch F1, because I know we haven't reviewed it on the show yet. But regardless of whether I get a chance to see it or not, John, we are gonna review that movie, so you can provide us your full thoughts and in all its glory, what you thought about F1. And yes, Josh or Caleb, not long enough, because we can be here for 5 hours. You have no idea how long next week's Superman open spoiler discussion is gonna be. But until then, guys, go out there and have a lovely evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are. Don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. We do appreciate that. It helps us bring more people in, more eyeballs on the show. Of course, if you are new and you're wondering, we are here 5 days a week talking about this. Usually not for 4 hours, but we try to keep it to 2 hours or as close to it as we can. So let us know what you think about the show. Of course, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live, usually in the latter half of the day on the East Coast. But if you are catching us from a different part of the world, then, we wish you a great rest of your morning, afternoon, evening. And with that, exactly. I was just going to finish by saying, as Superman would say, don't forget
I would
to
say,
look up.
I was thinking the Truman Show. If I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
And look up.